And we are live. Welcome to the Renegade podcast. I'm your host, the Dashing Rogue, and I am by myself again, going through the Sea of Tranquility. Nothing out there but stars. You can see a little of them here and there, but for those of you out there who are watching, welcome. Those who want to know what that song was, that was by Janet Green, Fascist Threat. Very good song. I highly recommend it. Good old folk songs from the 1960s, actually warning people about the dangers of communism, fascism, and all the rest of the isms and whatnot. So today we're going to continue going down our little crusade against the frickin', I don't even want to call them the globalists, but I want to call them just, in general, certain people's opinion regarding a certain type of policy called the H1B visa. There are a lot of people who are still going after it. I am surprised on how many people are still pushing back against this insanity, despite the fact that Elon is now trying to, instead of winning a battle he can't win in America, he decides to hop over like a real globalist across the pond and then say, yeah, all those, little working class white girls who are getting raped in the UK, I'm against that. Like, what about your people who actually live in the country? Like, again, that's Sargon's problem, right? That's Brother John's problem. Don't be an asshole who is, answer the question. Like, you may have said a lot of stupid shit. Vic Ramaswamy, Schwarmer, what the hell you want to call him, he actually brought up race in this, okay? Like, I didn't bring up race, they brought up race, right? And, it's gone to the point where it really should continue, and I think, honestly, depending on depending on what cards we are dealt, we very well could see the end of the H1B visa or not. One such person I could think of off the top of my head, this was actually sent to me by my artistic layman. Thank you, Luke. Thank you very much, Luke, for your hospitality. Here we go. And I used to watch this guy a lot way back in the day, but now I don't watch him nearly as much anymore. Why? Well, the hell is it? Come on. Close that. There we go. There we go. Here we go. Oh yeah, we're getting into Razor Fap territory. Where's Steve Bannon in all this? Like, you got Johnny Wad. We got ourselves the fucking chick. I think it's Grace Bannon. I can't remember. Is it Race Bannon? I don't know. And then you got Pajit.
The H1B very well, and it's something that I frankly use, and I shouldn't be allowed to use. We shouldn't have it. Very, very bad for workers.
A few years later.
I didn't change my mind. I've always felt we have to have the most competent people in our country. We need competent people. We need smart people coming into our country. And we need a lot of people coming in. We're going to have jobs like we've never had before.
Yeah, Razor Fist. Anyhow, the thing that gets me about this is that this guy destroyed the economy. Yeah, this guy right here, him and Biden both inflated my money and destroyed my chance of ever getting into the upper middle class or even the upper class. I might get middle class, but let's not kid ourselves. The elites are being predatory. But be that as it may, let's get back to Razor Fap.
Into the Oval Orifice in 2016, I released a video entitled Trump's Cabinet, Untouchables or Unflushables.
By the way, very, very, very quinkadinky name, by the way. Really weird, because we are untouchable to these people.
And I weighed the merits and demerits of the cabinet appointments and argued as to their likely efficacy or idiocy. With eyes firmly fixed in the rearview mirror now, we can see some of those selections, such as Steve Bannon, were awesome. So awesome, in fact, the entire D.C. metropolitan area. He has
his moments. I don't like Bannon Lupical. I mean, why isn't he running for office? Why isn't he running? Like, why are all these cool people who, even Razorfist and I would agree, had some pretty good takes, because even Bannon was pushing back way back against this crap. And he's even calling Vic out. He's like, Vic, you fucking dollette, you have no fucking right to do this shit to people. You have no right to fucking treat people, especially American workers who you're supposed to represent, and you're fucking cucking out for the Indians. Alright? So, this is one of those instances where chaos unites against fucking the Tau Empire. We're gonna get to chaos, because there's a lot of chaos going on.
dedicated itself to his complete and utter obliteration. But others, like that nappy-headed Ho Omarosa or professional prick Pompeo, had no business brandishing a library card, let alone an all-access White House VIP laminate. Pompeo's never seen a set of shoulder blades he couldn't confuse with a cutlery block, and Omarosa could find a way to drown in a think tank. And while we're not even in the opening crawl of Trump to the Future Part 2, Doc Brown is somehow already shouting the words, "Great Scott!" The latest kerfuffle, one I purposely waited about a week to weigh in on to give some more accurate...
Which I'll just say it right now. Waiting for the H1B visa, all this information is a good idea, because there's a lot of misinformation even from the official channels, right? Ramaswamy fucking decided to make it about race. It's not about race. It's not even about ethnicity. Actually, it's more about nationality than ethnicity even. Because, you have all these Brahmin, right? These fucking higher caste motherfuckers who instead of, doing the menial work and actually picking up after themselves, they get the fucking Dalits to do that. And again, it's not just that. It's also the fact they have in-group preference. So let's see if we got this here. Let's see. Get a few more people in here. I'll send out a link or two. Let's see. Besides Razor Fat... There we go. This was a fun one here. I found these guys out. Very interesting. They'll never say I haven't actually... I don't like Asians, but here you go.
Do you have the tech growth?
This is Matt Kim. He has about 100 plus K subscribers. Highly recommend him. He's going to tell a story about what he's seen in India and why he thinks India is really, really honestly just falling apart. And what is the problem with India?
Just so that we can pay them less.
So it's actually not an Indian-specific issue.
But they want specifically Indians.
Why?
Well, okay, now we're going back to the Jew talk. Because
Why?
Israel is invested heavily into the growth and economy of India. They are extremely incentivized to see the economy and the growth of Indians grow.
No, I don't think they are. I really don't think they are, and the reason why is because they're part of BRICS. But again, that's not really what I was going to get across here. They were going to talk about the caste system in here. Let's see. Peter lived in India.
So can I tell you a pattern that I've noticed? And I'll give a little bit more context because I feel like
I'm a racist.
I feel like I'm about to tell a story. I feel like I'm about to tell a story that I'm going to get in trouble for again. But you know what? Here we go. So.
Quick asterisk right there. Feels like I'm not gonna do that again. Yeah, but here I go. Here I go.
Guys, so I have lived in India for 6 months. I've been there. I work with Tata, TCS. They're like the big Microsoft that I just said. They're like the Samsung to Korea. Like everything runs off Tata. People don't realize Tata makes computers. They make cars. They make silverware. They make tables. They make everything. Like just like the Samsung. So I did a contract with them. It was an agile consulting opportunity with them with multiple teams across Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai. And I will tell you, Matthew, that the number one takeaway from my 6 months in India was that culture has a scarcity mindset. Do you know what that means? A scarcity mindset. And this is just my opinion. A guy who was there a decade and a half ago.
6 months.
Younger man, ignoramus, fine. But when I came back and I told my wife about all this experience, I just said the number one thing that I've amalgamated from this culture is a scarcity mindset. And what I mean by that is that by default, they live in a world where everything they believe is scarce. There is no abundance. Like in America, I think you would be hard pressed to find an individual or person in America that has a scarcity mindset.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, like, it's scarcity in what way, right? So, I've often said we don't starve in America. Even as somebody who currently is, like, kind of cash strapped right now until I get paid, hopefully in the little part of the end of the month, but I'm using credit for now, and I have, like, I have $40 in my pocket, so I'm doing fairly well, right? I'm not going to starve. I'm not going to starve for as opposed to, let's say, somebody in India who's like, well, fuck, I get to eat tonight, right? And even then, a lot of this is self-inflicted. A lot of this stuff is absolutely self-inflicted because, again, they're called for so much more. It's not their dharma to pick up after themselves.
You can be homeless and have an iPhone.
Yep.
You can be homeless and be given an EBT card of $5,000 on it. Like, in America, like, you've seen really chunky and overweight homeless
Poor
people. It's
people.
like, how are you getting
Yep.
fed?
Yep.
But in India,
Government cheese.
living there, riding around on a 125cc autobike, that's what they call them there, autobike. Not number one, it's managed chaos. There is
Yep, it is managed chaos. And why is that?
specific issue.
But they want specifically Indians.
Why?
Well, okay, now we're going back to the Jew talk. Because
Why?
recently found out that Indians are really that Indians also have a huge divide between themselves. I recently found out
Oh,
how segregated themselves are.
Oh man, bro, I could tell you stories, bro. Like some of the deepest.
I thought all Indians loved each other.
Oh no
Like,
no no
oh,
no
we're all
no
Indian.
no 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 no. Oh dude, I saw.
Which is stupid because at 1.5 billion, of course they'd be separated.
Yeah.
That was stupid on my part.
I know.
Ignorant,
Fair enough.
ignorant.
Which, by the way, a lot of these numbers that we hear from like China and India, oh, we have billions of people. They don't have billions of people. They have billions of fucking slaves. Okay, these people are low IQ, barely can fucking hold a rifle type of people. Like, it's basically modern slavery what the caste system is in India. And again, the easiest way out of it is to free your mind and your ass will follow. And the biggest problem here is when you have people who will try to enforce caste upon people, you'll get shit like this.
Fair enough,
Ignorant,
but I have to share. Like I saw some of the most. I wouldn't call it racist because we're in India. Everyone's Indian, right? Classist. That's it. I saw some of the most blatant classism, if that's a word, in India when I lived there. It was clearly you will not talk to or engage with this person because they're a lower class. Like the energy was real. Like you would see people walking and one class of person would move out of the way for the other class of person. It was just an unsaid rule. You don't walk on the, you got to jump in the street where all the shit is, and they can walk on the sidewalk type of deal. I saw people who are basically starving, sitting literally next to like food truck vendors, and I'm forgetting the word. That's like the food vendors anyway.
It's goy slop, yeah.
It's like, bro, you could just give him some food.
Nope, they can't give it to us food because it's not their calling in life, don't you know? That's what that is. And again, I really do think that we're going to see the end of the H1B visa here soon. I really do think we're either going to see reform or we're going to see the end because I don't know if it's algorithm poisoning or what, but, people want to talk about this and they want to have this discussion even though Elon's a piece of shit who's now cracking down. Because it wasn't just, oh, we can't have this discussion. He says, I will fight you on this. I'm like, okay, well, talk is cheap. We'll fight then.
But it did have a very serious detrimental.
Here we go.
And this Indian quote, "The reason I'm in America, along with so many critical people who built SpaceX, Tesla, and hundreds of other companies that made America strong, is because of H1B. Take a big step back," he says, "and go and beat yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue, the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend," end quote.
Bring it on, Brahmin boy.
Okay, so that is Elon telling you how he really feels. If you dislike the H1B visas, you can, quote, "beat yourself," all in caps, "in the face." Woo. Now, the point that he's making,
As opposed to in the ass.
though, here is at least partially correct. Part of the reason that he and some of the employees at SpaceX, Tesla, Microsoft, Google, and many others are in the United States working at those companies, they are there in some cases on H1B visas. So he is accurate in saying that the H1B does bring some workers, some talented workers, to those tech and engineering focused companies. That is correct. Now,
But it's abused to all high heaven. And you're going to see exactly why, because we talked about how these people have like a preference for their own group.
Now, the question I've been getting from many, many people, and I've been dodging this question rather fiercely, is whether or not I think H-1B visas are a good idea. Now, I've been very outspoken on a large number of topics related to the software industry, and I have a very long-standing history in software. I started in the lowest ranks at Microsoft back in the 90s and rose up through the point where I had really fancy and hoity-toity titles like Vice President of Engineering and Technology and things like that, where I was responsible for the hiring and firing of huge numbers of people, and some of them on H-1B visas. So asking me what I think about this is legitimate. It's fairly legitimate. Now, I've been dodging this by simply posting a screenshot of ChatGPT. Hey, ChatGPT, what does Brian Munduk think of the H1B visas? To which ChatGPT responds, I'm unable to produce a response because ChatGPT, I'm one of like the 7
Because ChatGPT is retarded. It's all about the Olamas, baby.
people that ChatGPT is not allowed to say the name of. So this is my way of being amused by the fact that ChatGPT can't say my name while simultaneously dodging this extremely spicy question. But the reality is this should be addressed. We should talk about this. And I can think of no better way to discuss my thoughts around the H1B than to tell you a little story. So back in the 1990s, I worked at Microsoft. I worked at main campus, Redmond, Washington at Microsoft. I was a teenager, and I was absolutely enthralled that I got to work at one of the biggest software companies on earth. I got to work at Microsoft. I was 19 years old, man. I was entry level as you can get. I was green. I was just a nerd, just delighted that I got to play with all of these computers and all of this software every day. It was amazing. It was amazing. Now, my second manager when I was at Microsoft was a man from India. And I won't say his name because I don't want to get him in trouble.
You should probably say his name because a lot of these Brahmin fuckers, they assume their status as Brahmin or within the caste based on their last name because it's a hereditary theocracy, essentially.
A nice enough guy. He and I didn't get along that great. We didn't really hit it off or bond, really. But that wasn't because he was a mean guy. He was a nice guy. I was a nice kid. We both tried really hard. It was great, right? And the team I was on was fairly small. It was less than a dozen total people were on this team. And this Indian fellow was there on an H1B visa. Now, when he joined the team, he was the only person from India on that team. He was the only one. There were 2, maybe 3 guys who were from South Korea. There was one guy who was Chinese, who was from his parents were Chinese immigrants, and I want to say the rest of us were all just a random hodgepodge of mixed race, kind of semi-whiteness from North America, as far as anyone can figure out.
Yeah,
right?
mystery meat.
That was what it was. And over the course of about 6 months, that demographic began to shift. And by, I'd say about month 9 to 10, the team had now changed demographically in a very extreme way under the leadership of one guy from India on an H1B. There was now a majority of people from India on the team, and none of them were mean, none of them were bad, and none of them were not smart. They were all decent at their jobs as far
decent at your jobs, but again, if they're decent at their jobs, hire American.
as I could tell, and they were all nice enough. Again, I don't know that I super hit it off with most of them, but they were nice enough, right? Everyone was fine. And by that point, the non-Indian group was down to 3 guys, right? It went from, 9 or 10 of us to 3 of us, 3 white guys. Those 3 white guys, 3 of them who had been on the team the longest at that point, were then put into a very small office together. We had originally, when the guy from India joined, we originally had big offices. Everyone had lots of space, and sometimes a few people had to share offices, but we all had lots of elbow room, right? We had good-sized offices. But not anymore. Now the 3 white guys,
now the 3 foreigners are going to be put in a good little fucking hut, while the superior ubermensch Brahmin motherfuckers, who again, according to Simone and Malcolm from Base Camp, disproportionately are coming over to the United States on the H1B. So these cunts have an entitlement mentality where they think they're smarter and better than everybody just by virtue of their last name or what they did in a previous life or some shit like that. That's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with people who are the pinnacle of entitlement, yet they themselves refuse to actually integrate, because why should they? They're already perfect, don't you know? They are above everyone around you.
3 honkies, as we called ourselves, were now in this little itty-bitty closet. It was this office that was this tiny little thin thing that was barely wide enough for one person to walk down. It was just a simple little itty-bitty closet hallway thing. There were now 3 of us in there. And it was so small that for me to leave the office, because I was in the back of the office furthest from the door, the other 2 white honkies had to stand up and leave the office so that I could exit the office. So every time I had to go use the little boys' room, they had to stand up and get out and stand up for me so I could get in and out. It was like being on a window seat at an airplane. It was
shitification because you hired the shit people from fucking India.
Ridiculous. Now you might be saying, well, that must mean there just wasn't a lot of space. Well, every person from India had their own office.
Yeah, but that's because they're Brahmin. They need to be, cleanliness is next to godliness. They want to be around hoarded together. That's for the white people to do. That's for the non-them. That's for the other, right?
There were people who were junior to the people that I was working with. Now, I was the most junior person at the time. I was just a kid, right? I was a kid. I was going to go with whatever, right? I had a job at Microsoft. I'll put up with working in an office.
Yeah, exactly.
The guy I was there with was a 20-plus year veteran of the software industry. and he should have had a window friggin' office, but no. And he did not. And eventually, I think all of the white honkies left, and the team became close to 100% Indian and H1B.
Yep.
Now, here is where we really need to look at it and say, how did this impact, one, the company, two, the quality of the software, and also three, the culture of the company and the workers who already were there and doing the work and living in the same community and from the same community that the company was at, right? We need to look at
they imported their own community. They imported their own community. They brought their culture with them, which again, you know, Vivek Ramaswamy will fucking call me out for being, oh, you like Boy Meets World. I'm like, dude, I like Boy Meets World and I like Urkel. Where do I stand in your little shit fucking hierarchy? Huh? Where do I stand? If I thought Topanga and Corey were good examples of what a couple fresh out of high school who are dating are supposed to be, right? What the hell is Steve Urkel? I mean, even Beckloff was saying at one point that it goes into, the Family Matters, that is, goes into the territory of, how shall we say it, sci-fi. They were fighting like Steve Urkel. He was going through the Nutty Professor. They were, in one instance, they actually fought, let's say, a dummy, and they did, like I said, they did the Nutty Professor thing. At one point, I think Steve actually fought a bunch of like aliens and stuff. It went into sci-fi territory. But yeah, I mean, this guy is a case textbook example of actual fucking discrimination. I guarantee they did it because they thought they were higher than you. They thought they were better. They won't ever say it, but they'll tell you that.
those people from India able to ship that software? And the answer was absolutely yes, right? They came in and they were fine. I don't know. Eventually, I left to go somewhere else because there was no upward trajectory.
Yeah, again, that happens a lot with tech. It just you can't rise above, so there's no company loyalty, right? Because the people above you were betrayed by having an H1B foreigner into their culture, and then the foreigner imported all his friends and family.
For me on that team because I wasn't Indian, right? The only possibility of being promoted at that point in that team at Microsoft was to be from India. That was the only option at that point. So I had to go somewhere else that would allow a non-Indian person to be promoted. So from that point of view, in retrospect, it was super racist. It was super discriminatory, and it sucked. But the software did get shipped, right? They did.
Yeah, but how did it get shipped? Was it shipped and it was shitified, and they had to like get a day one patch? Like obviously that happens a lot, but let's not kid ourselves. When you have spaghetti code and it's not well maintained, which is a big fucking issue, hence why you have to call these cunts out, because just because they can code doesn't mean they can maintain the code base, right?
Managed to ship a decent piece of software. Could the people that were there before the H1B flood came into that department, to that little team, could we have shipped the same software as well? Absolutely. Could we have shipped it better? I don't know. Maybe be a little better, maybe be a little worse. Could we have shipped the same software though? Absolutely. So when the H1B visas people came in, it didn't destroy the quality of the software or the company, but it did have a very serious detrimental impact on the individuals who were already living in that area. And what you have to notice is over time, the same story repeats itself regularly. And I don't necessarily, I don't hold any ill will against someone hiring someone else that they have something in common with, right? That they feel.
Yeah, but here's the issue though. They're not American, they're foreign. They came here, they're guests here. We're supposed to believe that the H1B visa is like this great, oh, everyone should be replaced with tech Indians. Everyone should be. No, don't get me wrong. I don't hate Indians. I just know that this is an incredibly corrupt country, right? And these people will absolutely be corrupt as well. The idea that they won't take that shit with them, that scarcity mindset, as Matt Kim talked about, the idea that they won't take it with them is just ridiculous. Let's see, I got this one right here. And keep in mind, this is the type of culture you're importing.
Hello, this is Sanya Patel, and you are welcome to HW News English.
She's cute.
A shocking incident took place on Monday in Bagpat, Uttar Pradesh, where a group of monkeys reportedly prevented a man from raping a 6-year-old girl.
A group of monkeys who, again, are animals, beasts of the earth, prevented a man from raping a 6-year-old girl. What the fuck, Jeet? What the hell, Haji? Why the fuck you, what the...
To the reports, the accused had tricked the child into going to a lonely building and stripped her naked while trying to rape her. According to the Times of India, luckily the man did not get the chance to harm the girl as a group of monkeys attacked the man, forcing him to flee the scene.
Amen for some Wukong. He's keeping the Hindus in fucking check and spreading that Buddhism, taking it to the journey to the West.
When the girl returned home, she narrated the whole story to her parents, stating that the monkeys had saved her life. Reportedly, the father narrated that the child had been at home playing when she was approached by the man who met her outside. CCTV footage recorded in the vicinity shows the man guiding the girl's hand towards a steep path and into the house that has been abandoned. According to the
There are houses that are just abandoned in India, apparently.
reports, the father said that the man had told the child that he would kill her father if she refused. She was able to avoid being physically injured thanks to the interference of the monkeys. The parents of the victim thanks to the interference of the monkeys.
We're gonna clip that. That in itself, I mean, you could get a lot of mileage out of that clip right there. I mean, between the flying monkeys and the rest of them, I mean, the interference of the monkeys. There you go. It's like fucking Ape Escape.
The parents of the victim proceeded to report the crime to the police without further delay. The police lodged an FIR under sections related to assault, criminal force to disrobe, and the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, that is POCSO. Reportedly, the incident was quoted by Bagpat Circle Officer Harish Badoria, who said that although the suspect has not been named, the law enforcers are on his trail. The suspect in the video remains a criminal and the CCTV is a good source of leads. A similar incident occurred within the same weekend in Balia, Uttar
Wait a second, and there's a similar incident happened and the monkeys still saved him?
Pradesh when two minor boys aged 8 and 7 raped a 7-year-old girl.
Wait a second, two minor boys aged 8 and 7 raped a 7-year-old. What the fuck is going on in it? Like, I'm sorry, but you're 7. You're not even in puberty. What the fuck are they doing? Are they like just fingering each other? Oh, you show me my wee wee and I'll show you my schlong? Like, what the fuck?
Boys tricked her into following them to a deserted area under the pretender of having fun before attacking her. She came back home wounded. The family had to rush her to the hospital. Both the minors have been apprehended by officials and were transferred to a government facility pending their fate. These events have therefore raised a lot of concern and provocation regarding the safety of children in the areas. The police are under pressure to arrest the culprit involved in the Bagpat case. The two examples shed light that there must be adequate measures taken to ensure that such children are not exposed to such attacks.
Well, how the hell are you gonna? I get the first one where the monkey saved the girl from the guy, but how do you protect kids from other kids who apparently are going into like sexual assault territory? How do you like? I can remember when I beat up a kid in freaking school, right? I got sent to detention. You know, I didn't get sent like for convicted murder or something, even if I did use a fucking chair or something, right? Because they knew that I was a kid, but like sexual assault, like how? Or are they shoving like what the hell are they doing? Who's teaching them this stuff? Anyhow, let's get some more H1B stories up in this mother. And then we'll get on to some other stuff as well. Alrighty.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for talking to me. Yeah. I have a...
There's a lot of clips we have tonight, guys. Alright, let's see. Massive layoffs, in-group bias. Here we go.
What I've seen with the H1B employees in the group...
What's your PhD in, by the way? Sorry?
Physics.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So, in the group or the department that I worked at the time, there was a lot of H1Bs, obviously. And in terms of skill, I would say that it was kind of just like, like anywhere else, it was a mixed bag. Some good, some bad. Most were okay, nothing extraordinary. I never really saw this notion that H1Bs are like some sort of extraordinary cream of the crop. It's mostly just a mixed bag, just like with any other workforce. One thing that I did notice that caught my attention was that there would be groups, like groups, groups of 10 to 20 people, where you'd have like a team leader, and then the rank and file members below them. And one thing that would catch your eye as you were going through like your org chart would be like, when the hiring manager is from one country, almost the entire group is from that same country.
Yep. And this is why we have to keep these people out of positions of power within the government, within the infrastructure, and within how shall we say it, the corporation. They don't, like, again, I need to see some fucking cultural loyalty before I start seeing some people get in positions of power. Like those jobs, like again, the first guy we talked about, right? Not Razorfist, but the guy prior to him. He was ready for that manager position. Why did they hire an H1B visa? Because they didn't want to pay him. It really boils down to they just don't want to pay us, and it's corruption.
And then you start to ask yourself, like, statistically speaking, what is the probability that when putting that group together, literally the only qualified people that person could find were from the exact same country that they were from?
Well, you have to understand, brother, you are not of the favored race, so therefore you need to shut the hell up and just accept your fate in the hierarchy of value.
Christmas Day trolling has been legendary.
First off, the timing's crazy.
Right? I mean, everyone's talking about this. Every single person has been talking about this, and if you don't believe me, go look at some of these things. Links in the description.
Off the bat, it's Christmas, and then this war starts.
There's a war that started,
and
right?
Is it primarily always on Twitter? Is it only on Twitter? That's where.
The only thing I've been seeing is on Twitter lately. There was some jeering and general trolling from an engineer from Twitter. But the controversy is surrounding Indians, and Indians are, because they're controversial in many different ways.
Well, I mean, between, the notion that these guys are incredibly cheap, like I've heard stories about people who they'd serve one Indian, they buy a pizza, and then they share like one beer, like they have one picture of a beer, and they have like 3 or 4 straws, and there are 5 guys there. And they're super cheap in that regard. Now, that being said, I think that if, 1 cup per person, but say, well, it's not against the law. I'm like, well, too bad. This is what we're following, and they just don't like it.
Have a competition between American workers who are now competing with the entire world. Doesn't matter if they're Agartha. It doesn't matter if they're engineers coming out of frickin' Moo. They're coming to your country to compete with you. But you see, these people, they come in, and they're from places that life means nothing.
To a certain extent, yeah, I know what you're saying.
I judge
and that's sad that I do.
There are 2 judgments I have on a country.
Yep.
How they judge human life and how they judge animal life. How they treat animals.
Yep.
Those are the 2. Now, I am not one to judge. I'm not a judge. But I'm saying if I were going to put a hypothetical across and pass a judgment, I would say civilization is defined, we could talk about sex and all that stuff, but I would say how they treat human life and how they treat animal life. And there are some countries that are floating around there that both of those are really, really down low. And I look at them in a different way than I look at every other nation. How's that?
All right, I'm going to try to say my side in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And the way I look at this whole situation is yes, those issues have been going on for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember when Steve Urkel built a jetpack and flew all the way to the show step by step. Pepperidge Farm, remember? Oh, fuck! Oh, man. He flew to San Francisco with a freaking jetpack? Did I do that? Jesus Christ. Oh, man. Beckloff, would you like to come on? Get you on at some point. No, not now, but like maybe now if you're down. I'm all for it if you're down. But yeah, I mean, like a lot of this stuff is just borderline just treason. If they could do the same job, it just so happens that they're cheaper, or let's say you want to get the DEI requirements. How many of these people from India are actually of the Dalit class? How many of them are from other castes? How many of should we be importing these people in general? Right? See if I'll get you on real quick. I'm gonna call you real quick, mate. All right. Get ready. I'll call you soon. What the heck? Did you change your profile? You look like my other friend. All right, let me get him up here. Let me get Mr. Beckloff on. Oh boy. Allow. Oh Christ. Gotta type this crap up. Okay. What the heck? Why is it not let me pick you up? Damn it. Anyhow, I'll see if I can get you on a... Let's see, try it one more time. No, it doesn't like it. It doesn't like me calling you. I don't know what the hell it is. I know that's another thing that ticks me off. Why can't we have software that just works? It don't need to reinvent the wheel. Well, because they have to innovate. They have to feel good about themselves by reinventing something that someone else had. Yeah.
Right? But it's never been thrown in your face.
No.
So now it gets thrown in your face, and then it looks like the backlash is immediate. It's like hardcore, it's heavy, and then, you know what I mean? Like, people are waiting for that.
Yeah.
And as soon as it happened, it was like this, whoa!
There's an immediate backlash. There's some jeering from an engineer at Twitter who may or may not be of Indian descent that was jeering some American workers on and being excluded from the H1B, all that visa program stuff. I mean...
Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I can't hear you for some reason. I don't know why. Give me 1 second. Let's see if I can get you on here. It's always the same thing with these things. Can't hear you, man. I'm sorry. Shit. Let me see if I can... It's always audio, video, visual settings. Camera, web settings, microphone. Okay, microphone is good. Where is the speakers? Oh, there it is. That's why. I'm sorry. There you are.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. How are you doing?
Okay, doing good. Yeah, so Steve Urkel built a jetpack and flew all the way to Step by Step.
Now that's the American spirit I can get behind. I mean, he flew all the way to San Francisco just to call.
Yeah, so at the end of he invented the jetpack literally so he could climb the rope in gym class faster. Because that's how stupid that show was. Because I guess that's not disqualifying somehow. You're allowed to use a jetpack, I guess, are the rules. And then the jetpack went haywire, and at the end of the show, he just flies off into the yonder, and then Step by Step comes on immediately afterwards that night, and starts with Steve Urkel crashing in their backyard.
Oh my gosh!
And by the way, Family Matters took place in Chicago, and Step by Step was somewhere in Wisconsin.
I thought it was San Francisco.
No, Full House was San Francisco.
Oh,
which Steve Urkel was also on for some reason.
You know, I can remember there was this Sabrina the Teenage Witch where they had that cat run around and they actually encountered I think like some sort of like weird time travel shenanigans where like the P didn't eat his Petramalt, so like he would time travel and he went to I think it was Boy Meets World, right? And then I guess they time traveled back to like World War I. Like really weird. Like the way I say it now, it just doesn't make any sense. But like, again, we had some good crossovers. Okay, like that's the one thing that I think that the '90s and '80s had was the damn crossovers.
Boy Meets World is actually a legitimately good show. I've rewatched that as an adult, at least some of it, and it holds up. But the rest of those shows were bonkers, man. Our Family Matters is one that's really weird because it starts off as like Black Full House and then goes into full sci-fi by the end of it.
Yep. And again,
like Steve Urkel makes sentient robots and he clones himself.
He does the Nutty Professor thing, yeah.
Yeah, he battles a poltergeist at one point. These are all canonical things that happen in the show. It's supposed to have just been like a little family sitcom.
In a lot of ways, like I can remember at the same time, there was one character in Family. I keep thinking Full House and Family Matters. They all blend together at the same time. But yeah, Family Matters. One of the characters just disappeared. Like they never explain what happened to that female actress. She just apparently just leaves.
I think that was one of the older sisters. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a weird thing in Saved by the Bell Saved by the Bell is terrible if you ever go back and watch it as an adult, but. So in the last season of Saved by the Bell, before their senior year, right? Mm-hmm. The actresses that played Kelly and Jesse, like, quit the show just abruptly, and they replace him with this character named Tori, who's like an amalgam of these two characters, basically. She's like a tomboy bad girl thing, and then Tori and Zach have a big thing, right? And they're a couple for a while, and there's even apparently 2 graduation episodes, because then like Jesse and Kelly come back, and Tori's gone, and we act like she was never there.
Sheesh.
So there's a split timeline theory to say by the bell.
Split time. Oh, it's just Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
The cat from Sabrina must have been time traveling.
I think his name was Salem.
Tori is in the downfall timeline for Saved by the Bell.
Oh God, that would be awesome. Unironically, like if they did like a Crisis on Infinite like sitcoms, and they bring in Steve Urkel and like freaking
Steve Urkel's like the fucking anti-monitor. He's consuming worlds.
Shit. That would be awesome. I would pay money for that, because I mean, like we already have like the revival of Sabrina, and apparently Sabrina, like I always thought Sabrina the Teenage Witch was an invention of my generation, but apparently this thing goes back to the Archie comics.
Oh yeah, that's a thing from like Archie comics going back into like the 60s or 70s. Yeah, you want to get weird crossover. So back when Archie was doing Sonic the Hedgehog, right?
Yep.
You know, and they had the comic that I loved as a kid with Princess Sally and all that shit.
Yep.
There's a crossover with Sabrina. There's an issue of Sabrina the Teenage Witch where one of her villains, I guess, an evil witch, I don't fucking know who, just opens a dimensional portal and grabs Sonic and brainwashes him and has him beat the shit out of Sabrina.
Like, I was joking about the crossovers, but apparently the crossovers...
You want to talk crossovers? Nothing gets weirder than comics, dude.
Oh, my God.
Nothing gets weirder than... I could talk to you all night about comic book crossovers.
Dude, we probably could, but I was gonna go get back to like this H1B. Actually, what is
I guess you got to talk about the adult stuff going on in the world. I'd rather talk about Steve Urkel.
We can talk.
Flying jetpacks. That's what we need. We need Indians to come over here so they can build sentient robots and jetpacks like Steve Urkel.
Exactly. So that way they could cheat on the freaking climbing the rope, because apparently upper body strength isn't needed.
This isn't an ethno country like other countries. It's not, there's a distinct English people and a Japanese people. And that's a lot fuzzier for Americans. We're made of 3 core groups, whites primarily, and then blacks and Native Americans are probably our 3 biggest groups. And then, there's the other ones. Let's be real. They got here much later.
They did.
But it's fuzzy as to what an American is. There's a fuzziness to that I don't think the Wignats ever want to admit. It's a predominantly white country, sure, but not entirely. That said, though, if your last name is like Nahasa Pima Petalon and you drink cow piss, you're not an American. All right? Like, I'm sorry to tell you, I don't care what legal status you're granted. I don't give a fuck if you're born here. You're not an American. Not in any meaningful sense.
Let me just say this. I'm going to have to push back against that, because Apu is a fucking national treasure. I mean, say what you will. You can say...
Apu is an American.
Apu,
however...
Yes, he is.
Apu, he's a businessman. He volunteers at the fire department. I'll grant you Apu. But some of these fuckers...
All right, so I'll give you another one. So the gentleman from Harold and Kumar go to White Castle. Like Kumar, the guy who plays Kumar... I will say that guy is an American. Absolutely. I won't say because he's actually a Canadian. What the hell's his name? Mudahar from Some Morning Gamers. He's integrated, right? He's somebody who's actually, I think he's a Muslim, but he's up in Canada, and he's one of ours. Right? He's a shitlord like the rest of us. He's integrated.
Again, there's a fuzziness to it.
Yeah.
But there's certain things where you could look at it and go, yeah. For one thing, if you don't speak English, there's your most basic active assimilation. If you don't speak English, I don't care what legal status you have, you're not an American.
Yep. And
the most basic part of a civilization is we have to be able to do business with one another, meaning we have to talk to each other.
Yeah, and another thing I will say, and I actually saw this the other week at my job, Indian guy speaking right into the microphone, and like, I tell him like, hey, you have a bit of an accent, can you like step away from the microphone? He gets offended. Like, I'm trying to help him, get a machine in operation. He gets machine operational because I work help desk, right? He gets offended by it. And I say to him, okay, it's going to take some time for me to ship you a replacement laptop. And he's like, well, okay, we'll keep you overnight. I'm like, I could try, given the fact that given the circumstances. But there was a lot of entitlement on these hunts.
Oh, dude, I used to work shipping. And let me tell you, some of the people are like, it's 5 PM. It's like, can you ship overnight to the moon? It's like, calm down, all right? I'll do what I can. Once I send the box out, I can't do much for you.
No, man, I agree, but like what I was gonna say is about this. Like, I don't know what Vic Ramaswamy's fucking issue is. Like why is
he just never got past high school? Look, there's a lot of motherfuckers and a lot of fringe philosophies come from this. That just somebody was mean to him in the fucking 7th grade, and they just never got the fuck over it.
Well, in fairness, I mean that's kind of what happened to me. I hate to be the guy that tells you this, but the difference here is. The people who screwed me over in not in 7th grade, but like high school, they're the SJWs, and given where I'm from, I kind of didn't have a chance. I'm kind of lucky in some regards. I'm not saying that should be an excuse to just justify my hatred of the world and my existential angst, but fighting the right battle at the right time, and in some cases acknowledging that you didn't have a shot in any meaningful sense. That should be not a strike against you.
I mean, look, I get being picked on. I was never particularly good at sports. I was a comic book geek decades before that shit was in vogue with the general population. I get that. But, the moment I stopped giving a shit if somebody called me a nerd is like when I was getting laid in high school, that was like the end of it. Like, oh my gosh, I'm getting pussy. What do I have to prove anymore?
I mean, all I have to do is pull out my freaking credit card and I win the game of high school. Like, I just outspend them. That's just how I operate. Or I have a car.
You read that thing by Vivek, and it's just all like, oh, the jocks were mean to me in high school, and we need to do this revenge of the nerd shit. And it's like, first of all that nerd-jock distinction is greatly exaggerated. Like, leave that shit in the Saved by the Bell in the 80s movies where it belongs, because it's not a very real thing. Yeah, there's always going to be people that are... There's always going to be the dumb jock, and there's always going to be the skinny little bookworm nerd, but there's a big fucking overlap between those groups.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, my best friend who's in high school, who's still my best friend in my 40s, he was as much of a geek as me, and I mean, he was on the fucking football team, the wrestling team, all that kind of shit. If you go in any comic book store, half the guys in there are obsessed with pro wrestling and fucking hockey.
Yeah.
Like...
Oh, man, absolutely. I mean... again, a lot of this, I want to say there's a bit of a conspiracy here for me when it comes to like the whole high school demographic marketing, because if you think about it, like I've always wondered, where the hell did the high schoolers get their trends from? Like who decided that skinny jeans were going to be a thing for my generation? Who decided that emo and goth were going to be a thing? Like, you have to ask yourself, who is the person, where are they getting these ideas? Because they're young, right? They're not learning, like, they're not some grand conspiracy of what have you. They're marketed that way. And I think it all started with the Breakfast Club, to be honest. I think the Breakfast Club really started that demographic marketing campaign.
It's a little of both. I mean, they are picking. Like, you can market the hell out of something, and it just doesn't land. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You try desperately to make this a thing, and it just never takes off. And then some things just kind of take off out of nowhere. But yeah, a lot of that shit is just marketed. Because look, you're a teenager, man. You don't know who you are. You're trying to figure out who you are, what you are, you place in the world. And so yeah, you get these neat little boxes of, goth, nerd, jock, whatever. But even as a teenager, you never fit in totally in those things. You know what I mean?
No.
It's a lot.
It's not a phase,
everything
Mom.
about Vivek's post of like, oh my God, the Indians are working harder than you because you were looking at Topanga's titties when you were a teenager and they were doing their homework. And it's like, look, first of all, Topanga had great fucking titties, all right? It still does. That chick's still hot. Daniel Fisher's still fucking hot.
Wasn't she on, like, Blacked or something like that? Like, wasn't, like, one of the, like...
No, Daniel Fisher was not on Blacked. You were thinking of Maitland Ward is the chick from Boy Meets World that has done... a lot of porn. I would assume Blacked as well, but she's just done a lot of porn.
Yeah, I don't want my childhood ruined.
She wasn't a major part in that show. I watched a lot of Boy Meets World, and I really didn't even remember her. Until I went back. She was like she was like the girlfriend of
Friends
one
of
of
this
the
world.
older brother's friends or something. Like she was not in that show a lot. Let's be real.
I mean, between Boy Meets World, Family Matters, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and I want to say, what was the other one with Tim Allen? Oh, Home Improvement.
Yeah.
Home Improvement, back when Sargon of Akkad was just a humble a TV talk show host as opposed to an internet shitlord. Oh, how the days change.
But yeah, all this jock nerds. That's all like Vivek is just like mad that like nobody liked him in high school. And if nobody liked you, buddy, it was probably a lot more than you were just a nerd. You were probably an unlikable shithead. You know what I mean? Like you were probably like a movie Bob guy who I get that movie Bob feeling where it's like everybody that was mean to me should be exterminated because I'm superior to them.
I mean, you know, if you're gonna do that, you have to sort of evolve from being a nerd into a jock. Because anyone you want to kick their ass, you gotta do it yourself. You can't be one of these guys who try to oppress everybody by extension because the whole world, everyone hates me. I'm through this world type of mentality. You know.
And also, like that again, that Vivek Twitter post that everyone is dissected. No, like the things he outlines in there are just horrible. Like, your kid shouldn't have sleepovers and have friends. They should just be doing homework all the time. You should be working 80 hours a week. It's like, I don't want to fucking do that.
What about,
I don't want my kid to do that.
Well,
I want my kid to hang out with his friends.
Well, what about, you going across your mother, let's say, trying to hop the school fence to give you the answers on the math SAT? I mean... Did they do? Yeah, that's actually happened in India. There are instances where you have like mothers and parents trying to slip their kids the answers to the math tests. They legitimately just want to take advantage of the hierarchy. They want to take advantage.
Oh yeah, somebody has a degree from an Indian school. I'm like, cool, man. That's yeah.
I mean, if it was Oxford, I'd be a bit more like, you'd be like, okay, you'd be somewhere within reality. But the Institute of Mumbai. No.
That's like me telling you how many fucking rubies I have in a Zelda game. Like, get fucked, man. Like, that ain't real.
Yeah, rubies aren't a real currency. I'm sorry.
Why, in Breath of the Wild, I have 10,000 rupees right now. That ain't paying my rent.
Oh, God. Can you imagine if they tried to sell, do what they did with WoW, with gold, what they did with, Breath of the Wild, in the Zelda MMO? And I guarantee you there's going to be a Zelda MMO coming up here soon. I have a just distinct feeling there might be. I don't know. But
yeah, all this shit, you got to do this shit. No, I don't want to compete with slave labor. I don't want to compete with people who work 80 hours a week. I don't want to do that. All right? I want to work 40 hours. Like, honest to God, most jobs, and look, I don't mean to be one of them guys that you should be able to live off McDonald's or something. But most fucking basic jobs, blue collar or even managerial at a retail level, that you're working 40 hours, you should be able to live off of it. You should be able to live comfortably.
Yeah, I mean,
you should be able to work at a factory, and especially if you and the wife are working, and have a fucking decent middle-class lifestyle. That's what we're striving for in this country. And everything that's striving away from that, I don't want any part of it. I don't want to compete with China. I don't want to compete with a bunch of bugmen that build fake cities that no one lives in.
That's exactly the point. Compete which way? Oh, China's GDP goes up? Okay, well...
Good for them. Good, I'm happy for them. I'll give them a round of applause. Leave me alone.
It's an abstraction, isn't it? I mean, what does GDP mean for you and me, right? Does that mean anything? Does it mean that I have 2 cars and a house and a white picket fence and a cute big-titted redhead wife?
You have to remember that economics is equal parts actual physical reality that we're measuring and clapping and believing so Tinkerbell doesn't die. It's always been that.
That's a very
money,
good way of saying it.
I hate to sound like a hippie, but money's not real.
It isn't.
It's not. It's a fucking play pretend. It's a placeholder. All right?
Yep.
In raw numbers, I'm making more money right now than I've ever made in my fucking life.
Amen.
And I'm certainly not living better than I've ever lived in my fucking life. That's for sure.
Oh, dude, again, I brought it up earlier, I'm pissed off at Trump still because he printed that money, and let's not kid ourselves, Biden never would have done anything. He never would have printed money also if Trump didn't take the lead in that regard. I really do believe that. Like, this is one of those instances where beta male Biden had to have Trump give him the permission to.
Oh, Trump's last year of his first term was a fucking disaster.
Yeah, but then again, so is the world.
I mean, three good years, but there's no defending his last year. There really isn't.
No, I mean, he locked everyone down. If you really want to get down to it, he did.
I mean, I'll defend him a little bit in that he didn't, but he allowed it.
Yep.
Like, you know.
I mean, I'm not the same person I was 4 years ago. I'm in a different state, different town, different job. I mean, I literally.
Oh, did you finally get out of California?
Yes, I did.
Good, man.
Fuck California. Yeah, I fucking got out of California. I mean, they were gonna. At one point, they were going to make me have to give up my guns or like get a license, which is basically just a de facto gun registry, to have them in the city, on the city level, mate. On the city level.
Fortunately, I lost all my guns in an unfortunate boating accident, so I really don't have to worry about any of those kind of laws.
Oh, thank God.
They don't apply to me anymore.
Yeah.
It was a terrible accident. The sea was angry that day.
Yeah, Bulbasaur. Let's get you a Bulbasaur on here. 1 second. Let me get you on here. Okay. There he is. And
Yeah, man, I watched, and it was Christmas Day too, and I watched, fucking Vivek just nuke all the goodwill he built. And Elon nuked about half of the goodwill he built. He could, unlike Vivek, I think Elon could repair his reputation if he pulls his head out of his ass. But, I mean, Vivek's done. Vivek's fucking toast.
Vivek at this point, here's the real issue that really gets me is that I think Elon's smarter than he actually is. And the reason why is he brought on Jared Taylor. Like, believe it or not, like, there's a lot of, like, I want to say either strategic, distancing or, giving people bags of shit to hold. Because there's a lot of people out there online who were making, the freaking haha stupid Indian, it's not about ethnicity, it's about nationality. And a lot of it is about culture, but they want to make it about race. They want to go into oh yeah, we are the Brahmin and you're not the Brahmin. You're just some, creepy little Dalit who's a sex pest. And yeah, there are instances of where you have, the Indian sex pest. That exists. That is a real thing. Go watch that movie, what was it? Euro Trip. There's a whole scene where some guy tries to creep on the freaking passengers. Literally creep on them. And, again, a lot of this is I actually think that Jared Taylor being allowed on Twitter is designed specifically to distance himself, but also he's going to open his mouth. And you can say whatever you want about Jared Taylor. I think he's Hank Hill. I always think he's just Hank Hill. That's just how I see it.
I think bringing Jared Taylor back was just kind of cover for getting rid of the Groypers. He mass banned tons of the Groypers. I don't think he got Nick Fuentes, but tons of the Groypers, he just fucking nuked their account. And good, fuck the Groypers, they suck. And I think just be oh, look, I didn't do it because of their political position. I did it because they're obnoxious shitheads. See, look, I brought Jared Taylor back.
Oh, yeah, I don't really care about Jared. Again, I'm going to distance myself from him because, again, the people who will unnecessarily bring up race in this, when it's not about race, it really isn't. It's about culture. In this particular regard with the H1B, but no, it's... again, I really do think that him bringing on Jared Taylor and restoring his account now, of all things, is a move to try to distance himself from what the stupid shit he said, including the whole, using
I think it's a little bit about race. I'm never one of them guys that's oh, race doesn't matter, but I'm also not full Wignat where it's it's the only thing that matters. Far from it.
Yep.
But race matters. Different racial groups have different characteristics on a whole when you're just averaging them all together. Those are facts. Those are stone cold facts, whether you want to believe them or not.
Oh, absolutely.
There's obviously physical differences.
Well, there is.
And then there's different diseases people are susceptible to. There's different temperaments that seem to even be ingrained. And you can endlessly debate nature and nurture, but there's, culture and genetics are a feedback loop to one another to begin with. Race does matter, and I'm never going to say that it doesn't. That said, though, the people that act like it's all that fucking matters.
Well, the people who want to take center stage, rather. you know,
I would say the American identity is mostly a white one.
you keep saying
Again,
white. I wouldn't say it's white. I'd say it is almost certainly waspy. Emphasis on waspy.
if you were to take, and I mean quintessential Americans, 10 of them, like probably like 6 or 7 at least are white, and then like 2 or 3 are black, and you got a native in there, is like kind of the real core of America is that.
The people who participated in the history of the foundation of this nation,
Yeah, the real honest to God roots in this nation, Americans. That's what you're looking at for the most part. I mean, there's certainly exceptions. Out in the West Coast, there's large Chinese populations because they were brought over for the railroads
Vietnamese,
150 years ago.
Vietnamese,
yeah, Asian in general that were brought over here and that are very Americanized.
Absolutely,
like just completely Americanized.
I mean, look at the roof Koreans, right? They actually, they use their military training to fight off the LA riots.
Honestly, in general, though, like, if you're fresh off the boat, you're not a fucking American. I don't care what's it like, not in a meaningful sense, not in any spiritual sense, and I'm not even sure your kid born here is, depending on how you're raising them.
It does depend.
And there's something to be said for if you want to be a part of this country, maybe you got to come over here and eat a little shit and pay your dues. Maybe you got to prove yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean legally, I mean culturally. Like, maybe before we all consider you American in any meaningful sense, you have to have fucking earned it. Your family line has to have fucking earned it.
Yeah, and part of that is integration, and not just I speak English and whatnot. Some of it might actually have to be intermarriage or marriage with the culture. Not necessarily a white chick, but maybe a black chick or a Latina or whomever. But the problem here is the H-1B visa. Again, it's this you got the corrupt system of the castes. They're being exploited for slave labor. Let's not kid ourselves on this. And then you also have the fact that, like the guy said, they have a scarcity mindset. So they come over here, they're living fast and dying young, essentially. Because, again, a lot of these, not even dying young per se, but they're just, again, they're being exploited. They know they're being exploited, so they don't have an investment. I had one instance where, this wasn't an H1B, but it was a gentleman who was working, when I was working at this company, he stole stuff, and he tried to get on a plane to China. He was trying to steal technology that we were working on, and he got caught. There's actual, legitimate security issues that need to be addressed here when it comes to, some of these temp workers, and I don't think we can fix them just yet. I'm not against illegal immigration. I do think we should have a referendum until further notice, until we get our logistics in order and find out who actually is here and who isn't.
Oh yeah, and I think we've had enough of it for a while, just in general.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I agree.
There's 330 million people on this planet. As much as everyone wants to spurg on about my birth rates and all, we're not on the verge of extinction. We're fine. All right, there's 330 million people in the continental United States. I said on the planet. I meant in the continental United States. There's 8 billion worldwide. We're fine, all right? Let's just, I don't know. If you're an American company operating in America, I want you to hire Americans.
Exactly.
I don't think I'm being unreasonable there.
Yeah, especially when was it the Chinese have freaking safety nets on their factories so they don't.
I mean, there
try to
can
kill
be
themselves.
exceptions. There could be, we found this super 300 IQ genius that needs to come work at SpaceX. Okay, fine. We'll make maybe an exception, all right? But we don't need H-1B visas for janitors and Chippendale strippers, all right?
Oh, you saw that, did you?
I don't think that's not helping us. Haji gyrating his hips ain't helping us get to fucking Mars, all right?
Well, I mean, it's funny you say the hips, because I think it's the thighs that are a certain class of the Megazord, or the hell it might be their caste system. But here's an example. Here's something I found that was interesting. You could just look at the viewing globe here. This was something that I found sad. So, an Indian book for learning English in the 1990s, they say hard, soft. beautiful, ugly. And again, this is caste system 101. And this is the reason why, again, I keep telling James Lindsay, the woke right and the woke left benefit from having H1Bs who believe that because their skin tone is not white enough. And the keyword is not white, it's light. It's no different than me saying some pasty fucker from Seattle is different from, let's say, a redneck in Appalachia, or a different race entirely. There's enough genetic drift. I actually keep seeing this video on YouTube about there's enough genetic drift between different castes of Indians that they can be seen as a different ethnicity. And I'm like, why? Like, did you really brutalize an entire group of people so badly that now they're basically have different genetics? Like, what the fuck? I don't know.
Like I said, we don't need any of this fight. And, you had Bernie Sanders tweeting about it the other day where he's like, yeah, this is terrible. It takes jobs away from Americans. It's like, I've said for a while that a more interesting divide, and probably a more important one than left and right, is kind of I would say, establishment versus non-establishment. Look, Bernie is fake non-establishment. I mean, he's sold out. But the point is, his base is one of non-establishment, of disenfranchised people. And I don't mean disenfranchised in that I'm a queer otherkin two-spirit, stupid suburban kids buffet of sexualities. I mean people that can't find a decent job, disenfranchised.
People who legitimately come from let's say a dirt home, let's say.
People who genuinely feel like the system was fucking them.
Yeah, I feel that.
That's a lot of people right now.
Yep.
And that's not our ruling class. Our ruling class thinks everything's fucking peachy keen in that regard. And you're going to see a big disconnect between that. I think it was Matt Gaetz was actually working with Thomas Massey, who is the most ideologically libertarian right motherfucker in Congress. He's the next incarnation of Ron Paul. He's worked with the fucking AOC and her idiot squad on a few bills because he doesn't care. He's just like, hey, if somebody wants to help me get a bill through, fine.
Yep, and it's become was it Coke and Pepsi, right? Team Coke, Team Pepsi, right? The Pepsi for the young and Coca-Cola for those who like Christmas.
And, well, don't bring that up, man. I'm on a diet, man. I'd fucking stab somebody for Pepsi
dude.
right now.
Fuck.
God, I miss some. That's the biggest thing I cut out, and fuck, I miss it. Oh my God.
I cut out weed and I cut out freaking alcohol, and I feel better for it, but at the same time, I'm tempted, man. I freaking want to
dude, I want to get in my car right now and drive to Turkey Hill and get one of them fucking big gulps of Fountain Pepsi, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm doing good. But I don't know. Maybe in my birthday in March, if I've lost a decent amount of weight, I'm going to fucking have a cheat day of fucking strawberry cake and Pepsi.
Oh, dude, that sounds delicious. Strawberry cake. I don't even know.
Oh, man. A lady from my church, very close to me, I like family, her and her whole family, her husband and all that. And she made me, I guess a year ago now, or 2 years ago, for my 40th birthday, she made me a fucking strawberry cake. She put jam in the cake batter.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Oh, God, it was oh, my God. I could have made love to that cake. It was so beautiful. Like, strawberry icing on it. There were chunks of strawberry in the batter, too, from the jam. Oh, it was so good.
Wow. That sounds pretty good. I mean, I had at one point Marie Callender's. I remember getting pies from Marie Callender's. That was pretty cool. I don't know. All I know right now is that it's going to be interesting. I mean, Trump got inaugurated today, I believe, right?
Oh yeah, that was funny. Did you see the video of Harris having to do that?
No, I have not.
She was so visibly mad.
Send me the link.
You know that fake smile when you can tell someone is infuriated?
When they're showing you their teeth? Yeah, I know what you're
like. You ever see somebody getting roasted in public in a situation where they can't say shit back? They have to pretend like it's funny, or like they're fine with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she had that look on her face, that smile, just with a sea of rage under it. She was so ass mad. Oh man. Like and I don't even think you're supposed to do this, but when she announces like, and Donald Trump had 300 some odd electoral votes, all the Republicans stood up and clapped, and she looked so pissed.
Yeah, because nobody wants that. Like,
and then the Democrats stood up and clapped when they announced her loser electoral votes. And it's like, why are you clapping for the loser? You're looking pathetic now. You look more pathetic than if you just sat down. Like, the Republicans got, like, you could say that was a breach of decorum when they were cheering on the winner, but you cheered on the loser. You look sad.
It could have been worse. It could have been like not last year, but I want to say the year right before, Dark Brandon saga took place.
Democrats need to get their shit together, man, because, like, I'm not totally in line with the Republicans, and I don't want them to just have no opposition. Because if they have no opposition, they're going to start focusing on all the stupid shit they believe in instead of the really good fix the economy shit. It won't be like caring about workers anymore. It'll just be endlessly whining about abortion and pornography and sending all our money to Israel. And it's like, I want the Democrats to at least be somewhat competent, because like one party rule is bad news, just period. You do not ever, like, the best you can hope for if somebody never has to worry about fighting for re-election is they'll stop giving a shit. And that's if they don't go crazy with dumb ideas. So I would kind of like the Democrats to pull their shit together a little bit. Like, because this ain't it, man. They keep on this fucking track, they ain't winning another presidential election for a long fucking time, especially if the illegals are chased out.
Yeah, well, that, and also the fact that, I mean, I honestly am at the point where I'm thinking, let's co-opt the Democratic Party. I mean, there's not a two brain cells between them. I mean, they have the heart in the right place. They want to help people, but who are they helping? Are they helping the pederast trying to take advantage of some little girl, or they are? Yeah.
All that said, though, you have to remember how quickly the tides will turn on this. Think back to like 2014-ish, right? Early 2015. The Republicans were in a bad fucking spot. I think Florida had gone blue with Obama.
Oh my God.
And there was, I think, or it was close. I can't remember exactly, but like Obama handedly won both fucking times. And he really, I mean, it made sense for him to win in 2008 because everyone was mad at Bush, but he really shouldn't have won in 2012. That was ridiculous. But the Republicans were so feckless. And I mean, there was serious talk. I mean, on both sides, that they were like, at this rate, Texas is gonna go fucking blue, and then it's over. You were looking at a complete electoral blowout map for a generation or two at least for the Republicans, and then a goofy guy with orange hair came down the stairs, and shit just shifted overnight. So I say that to say to Republicans, like, I joke about Democrats getting their shit together, but you better be wary of that, because they might get their shit together. Like,
yeah,
they just might. I don't see it right now because they're so far removed from reality and what anybody fucking wants.
Well, it's academia.
But so were the Republicans right before Trump came down. Trump took you always call, like, a lot of times I hear people, like a lot of MAGA people call the old guard Republicans rhinos. And I'm like, that's almost not accurate. Because, like, they are the old guard Republicans. Like, the MAGA people, and I applaud them for this, they're the usurpers. They're the people that came in and took the Republican Party from them and made it into something worthwhile.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a disenfranchised group of people who, again, I hate to be the guy who says, but like the millennials, we're never really gonna get past that fucking 2008 financial crisis that I turned 18 in 2008, and then, oh my God, I can't find a single job. Like, what the hell, right?
Well, I had a similar blackmailing moment because almost to the day directly between my 18th and 19th birthday, 9/11 happened.
Oh, jeez.
And I was politically astute enough because I was a politics nerd in my teen years. Thank God I also had friends and was getting pussy, or maybe I'd have turned into a groiper. Like, but I was a politics nerd going into my teen years, and I knew enough to go, oh wow, we're gonna lose our fucking minds. You know, and this was before I was even questioning whether or not the government knew in advance or any kind of conspiracy theories. This was just like, oh, wow, they'll take advantage of this and they'll do a lot of fucked up shit. And sure enough, there comes the Patriot Act, there comes the Iraq War, there comes all this dumb shit. And I'm just like, we're fucked, man. It's over. And frankly, I'm amazed it took as long for the negative effects of shit like the Patriot Act to hit us. By the way, the reason we all get deplatformed all the time online is because of the Patriot Act. That's what gave banks and payment processors the ability to do that.
Yeah, which, again...
You know, it used to be that they couldn't shut off your fucking money unless you were convicted of a crime.
Yeah, now they could say, well, we suspect you of being with the
Oh,
Russians.
you said the N-word online, now you can't have a checking account.
Because you're a hate monger.
Like, thank George W. Bush for that. Well, yeah, I had that black pill moment where I was like, fuck, man, it's all fucked. Yeah, you know.
It's always darkest just before dawn, man. I mean, even Birdman right now, like, I don't know, have you been following the Six Axe and Hammer saga? Or the Court of the Owls arc, if I like to call it?
I saw a little bit of, he was, like, defending the H1Bs, and his audience was having none of it.
Oh, dude, yeah, I mean, because he was trying to, like, he was trying to say, like, oh, the culture is so good. No, the culture is shit, and there's a reason why the only people who benefit from it are the left, or the woke left, the woke right, and the corporatists. No one benefits from it otherwise.
You know, I say this as somebody that's very libertarian myself. I mean, I wasn't old enough to vote in the 2000 election. I was still 17. I was a few months away from being 18. But I actually, like, bought a Harry Brown Libertarian for President t-shirt. You know what I mean? Like, I was that politically minded at the time. I was like, hell yeah, libertarians all the fuck away, right? And so, I mean, a lot of people got on board with Ron Paul. You know, Ron Paul was just the first Republican I saw agreeing with me, you know? And I say that to say this, a lot of libertarians, and I understand this, and I might have at one time even agreed with this, are very open borders. Because it's the idea that everyone should just come and go as they please. You know what I mean? Why the fuck not?
Right.
And I get that on a certain level. And if we lived in a world that was all basically first world and relatively free, maybe not totally America free, but at least fucking Europe free. You know what I mean? If we lived in that kind of a world, I would say a much more open border free trade policy would be a net positive all around.
Yeah, I mean, you go...
But we don't. We live in a world where there's a giant ant colony called China that's full of slave labor, and I don't want to compete with it.
And then there's a termite nest right next door called India.
Yeah, and it's going to eat everything if you let them. And I don't want to deal with that either, all right? Like, you know, I understand the idea that people should just be able to come and go as they please. And again, I get that, and I sort of on some level agree with it, except that we don't live in shouldland. Like...
And at the same time, you know, it's idealism. A lot of this is idealism, American idealism, granted, but we don't live in ideal land. We live in the real world, don't we?
Yeah, I would love it if we could just, everybody could just come and go as they please. That sounds fucking great. All right, but like, nah. Like, I'm not, you know, at the end, you know, I want to maximize my freedom. And bringing a billion Chinese and a billion Indians over here is going to be rather counterproductive to that.
Yep. Yep.
To attempting to I want to maximize American freedom and prosperity. That is my goal when it comes to politics.
That and
I want us to be prosperous and free.
And the key word is us, not necessarily Europe.
I would love the rest of the fucking world to be prosperous and free, but I'm not in the rest of the fucking world. I'm in America.
Exactly.
Right?
I agree with you. I agree with you on that. And that's sort of like we're going from policy into wishing the world best, you know?
You know, how you have like an ex and you don't hate her, but you also you wouldn't necessarily want her to get married before you. You know what I mean? That kind of feeling where it's like, I hope she finds just total, complete happiness right after I do. That's how I feel about other countries. I hope you all have all the prosperity and freedom you can handle right after we get ours.
Exactly. And that's sort of why I've become more of like an imperial, like everything the left has called me, whether it be racist or sexist or any of this other shit, right? I've kind of become it, but like a better version of it. So like, you know, I said I'm a American imperialist. I believe that we should, you know, take over and, you know, conquer other places and bring back the American way. We should, you know, start, you know, building our own stuff, and like don't be ashamed of being an American. Don't be one of these guys who are like, oh, I'm sorry for being this or that or what have you. You know, we shouldn't be doing that. We should be like, hey, you know, fuck you for not being us, rather than oh, fuck you for being ourselves. You know?
Well, yeah, our flag's on the moon, not theirs, and that should be the basis for how we view ourselves. I wouldn't say I'm an imperialist because I'm quite the bring the troops the fuck home. Like, if it were up to me, the only real military presence we'd have is I'd have the Navy out there policing the seas, just because those are our shipping lanes and we need that.
Yep.
Beyond that, it's like I'm not gonna have a military base in Timbuktu. You know, none of that shit. We're bringing that shit home.
Are you sure? I mean, how are they going to resupply the ships, brother?
I don't know. We'll figure it out, man. But I'm tired of that shit. I want these troops on the border. I want these troops defending our sea lanes. You know, yeah, okay, you want to have a basic... And the Air Force. I would have the Air Force kind of policing space a little bit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of want the Iron Dome as well.
But I'm tired of dealing with, oh, this country slapped this country, and it's this conflict that went back 4 billion fucking years, and we need to pick a side. No, I'm done with that. I'm tired of defending the Starbelly Sneeches over the regular Sneeches. We're not doing that shit anymore. I don't care. Your flag says you butter the top of your toast or something. Fuck that Dr. Seuss shit. Fuck the old world. You guys can sort that shit out. If anything, our position on those kind of things should be, don't make us come over there. We'll slap the shit out of the both of you.
That, and also the fact that I think there's actually a lot of money to be made from having a presence on the world stage. I think there's money and resources that can be extracted from those.
Yeah, there's a lot of money to be made, but that money goes to like the military-industrial complex and the elites, and that ain't money that us Americans really end up seeing. That's money that the people in this country that are fucking us end up seeing.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people that benefit from all this nonsense, but they're not the people in this country I want benefit.
Yeah.
You want to have imperialism, you have cultural imperialism as the way to do it.
Exactly.
You know, there was a time when our two biggest exports were guns and entertainment.
Yeah.
You know, we're falling behind the Japanese when it comes to exporting entertainment, and that shit needs to end. All right, we need to go back to being the country whose movies everybody wants to watch.
Yep. I agree with you on that, and the easiest way to do that is to go back and see what works. You know, I most of the stuff I watch, you know, with regards to entertainment, is stuff that I grew up with. You know, like Family Matters. Believe it or not, I actually am trying to hunt down Family Matters and I'm trying to think what else. Fresh Prince and all these old TV shows. I wanted to get Sister and crap like that. And the reason I watch it is, one, because it brings back memories. Two, because it's actually good stuff. It's still good to watch.
It's worth getting DVDs if you can, man.
Yep, I know. I have them. I got them.
People want to be like, oh, DVDs, there's disc rot. It'll melt away after. It's like, I have DVDs going back for like 25 years, and I've never, not once, and maybe it'll happen to me, but not once have I had a disc just rot away. It's like, maybe don't store your DVDs inside your greasy butthole, and they'll be fine.
That, and, you know, make sure they're properly, you know, it's well-heated, not even well-heated, but like a temperate climate, and it's...
Keep them in a cool, dry place.
Exactly.
You want to preserve virtually anything, keep it in a cool, dry place. Trust me, I'm a comic book collector. Let me tell you something. Heat and humidity are the fucking death of paper. Also light. That's the death of ink, but sunlight in particular. But yeah, just keep them in a cool, dry place. Stick them in a fucking comic box and keep them somewhere where there's no humidity and not a lot of heat. And same with DVDs. Keep them in a cool, dry place. Don't be a smoker in your house, and your shit will be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
it'll certainly last longer than the glorified rental you have on streaming services.
Oh, dude, don't even get me started with streaming services. I mean, you want to talk about how, like, the media is the message. Go look up, what was it? I think it's the slop content problem, where, I think it was the movie Dancel on Netflix, right? Where it's basically the girl befriends the dragon, and then they take over the kingdom and whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm.
the dialogue in those shows on Netflix are so like like the exposition is just like every other 15 minutes they give you exposition of what they're doing, right?
Netflix has had a bunch of original shows, and the only three I consider genuinely great are Daredevil, when they were doing their Marvel stuff. I don't even think the other Marvel shows they did were great. They're better than the Disney Plus ones, but only Daredevil was great. Season 1 of Daredevil is a fucking masterpiece. Stranger Things is good, and the Castlevania cartoon was good up until this current season where they started like in a new time period.
Yep.
That was bad. That got bad.
Oh yeah.
But the original like 3 or 4 seasons are fucking gold. That's it though, man. And there's been a lot. Like I remember my dad was watching some sitcom on there, and it had Sam Elliott and the rape guy from '70s Show and Ashton Kutcher. And it was like Sam Elliott was some crotchety old cowboy, and he didn't understand the modern ways, and his sons are trying to show him how the modern world works, but he's a crotchety old cowboy. And I was like, this sucks, man. This feels like it was written by an AI chatbot that watched a show that was written by an AI chatbot that watched a sitcom. Like
AI fucking inbreeding, you know?
Like the jokes were so fucking bad, and this sucks, man. Like, and I know it's a sitcom. I'm not expecting gold, you know what I mean? But it's like, it's just so big. It felt like a show someone would watch in a show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like
you know how like
scratchy.
sometimes like it felt like this is Reptar in the Rugrats or something. Like this is the show that the cast of The Big Bang Theory watches every Friday night. You know, this is a show that Charlie Harper watches in 2.5 Men. That's how badly written it was.
Oh, jeez. I actually kind of want to get to 2.5 Men now at this point. I mean, it's basically Charlie Sheen's freaking, you know, I wouldn't say last horizon. He's still alive. I mean, he was doing drugs.
He's still around. Yeah, he even did a show after that called Anger Management. It just didn't do that well. But yeah, 2.5 Men started off pretty funny, and I mean it wasn't extremely well written, but it was just Charlie Sheen was really likable and funny at that point.
He
So
reminds me so much of Aaron Clary in that show. He really does.
Well, yeah,
same freaking look even.
Yeah, 2.5 Men started off pretty good.
That was pretty cool. And then did you hear the latest? Apparently.
What's that?
So apparently, like I was alluding to this earlier about how apparently Sticks, Hacks, and Hammer is having apparently he was dating his wife, or not dating his wife. He was married to a girl in Amsterdam or what have you. I think in the Netherlands, right?
Oh yeah, he got like a divorce recently, didn't he?
Yeah, no, I don't think he got divorced. Like we don't know about it, but there was this one time, like I want to say around the time of the elections, where he was basically, you know, hitting on this girl, not physically, but apparently it was physically. And it wasn't his wife, it was like his girlfriend or what have you. And apparently he was having like extramarital relations. Now the motherfucker is saying that like apparently Chaos Magic killed the DA that was gonna like report on him. Like I don't know if you know about this, right? Like he was saying that like the prosecuting DA of I think it was New Orleans shot himself in the head. And he was basically attributing it to Chaos Magic. Have you seen this video yet?
So he used magic missile to kill the DA that was going to prosecute him. That's pretty bad. That's pretty badass.
He used hypnosis with the bird's permission, and the power of the bird helped him kill his rival.
I wonder if he can get me out of tickets for that.
Shit, I don't know. Maybe you teach you the. He'll teach you the Masonic hand sign to get you out.
I'll tell you what, I couldn't be trusted with that power. Every fucking speeding ticket I get, I tell the cop like, you don't want to give me a ticket. You want to go fuck yourself.
You don't need to see my identification. Here you go. Here's what it's only like 4 minutes long. I'll just play it for you.
All right, everyone. About 24 hours ago, the deputy DA for New Orleans Parish decided to blow his head off in his own office. I have nothing further to say about this. Very, very sad now, isn't it? I did want to talk about Chaos Magic, though. Chaos Magic is the concept that you are generating energy. It doesn't have to be negative, necessarily speaking. It can be quite protective. And you're launching it at a non-specific target. so to speak. That is that the energy that is generated partially in the form of ritual, potentially, partially in the form of meditation, simple mental focus, and so forth, goes forth and does its job. The idea is that it's sort of like, imagine that ritual magic is like firing a rifle, so to speak. We're going to use a physical metaphor for it. The rifle is very accurate, takes out an individual target. It's very, very target-head. Let's say that you utilize, though, a shotgun. Well, I mean, if you fire it at intermediate distance, you might hit anything. It's not exactly sure necessarily the accuracy is much lower. The power is still high, but the accuracy is lower. Chaos magic, in my personal black magic practicing experience, is exceptionally effective at eliminating persecutors and people that are corrupt and so forth.
Well, who gets to decide who's corrupt, Sticks? Like, and who does like me calling you some weird Grizzly Adams looking motherfucker? Does that make me a persecutor? Am I an oppressor? Is Elon an oppressor? Right?
It will not work against those that are actually being genuine. It will not work against those that are being good people. I mean, good in the general sense. So they're not trying to do harm or anything like that. It's ineffective against them. What it will do, though, is it will tend to hone in, and in that way, it's a little bit more like a homing missile, I suppose, on those that are doing evil.
Yeah, but what is evil, Sticks?
Those that are being corrupt.
What is being corrupt, Sticks?
Everything is mimetic. There are no coincidences. You wouldn't believe...
time is a flat circle, hard the cards. But what I find is interesting is that he's on trial. He's going all the way to New Orleans for like battery charges, right? Because apparently I'll never understand this, Mr. Beckloff. Why the hell, if he was tapping this cute little Dutch girl, right? And he got married, like he had kids apparently. And he's fucking this girl who I guess he knew from high school. He's kind of obsessed with. I just do not understand. Like, Dutch Galadriel is so much better than Emo Erwin.
Did he use chaos magic to get in that ass?
I think he got chaos magic to get that pussy. Yes, to get the Dutchie pan. Yeah.
Look, man, I'm not like some materialistic atheist. There's definitely a supernatural element to the world. I certainly believe in God, and I've had experiences I don't talk about because I know how they sound. But like the moment you're going on about like your Doctor Strange shit and how your chaos magic works, it's like I feel like just a basic skeptic in me would say, if you could do this shit, you wouldn't be telling me about it.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to.
You know what I mean? Like if Dionne Warwick was really psychic, she would have seen that bankruptcy coming. You know what I mean? Like it's, and it's, there may be psychics in this world for all I know. And you know what they're probably doing right now? They're probably running from the government who's trying to capture and dissect them. Like you don't have magic missile Sticks. You're not doing any of this shit. You're a goofy guy on YouTube that's LARPing about nonsense. You're not doing any of this shit. And you know what? If you were, you wouldn't be opening your mouth. If you actually magically made the DA fuck off, that wouldn't be a thing you'd feel the need to brag about. If anything, you'd just be like, oh my gosh, such a terrible tragedy. Anyway, you would be like, ah ha ha, I did that with my magic powers. No, you didn't, you fake.
No, like, tell me if you could read the room on this tweet here. He says, again, let me remind you that the occult is just a joke. Only your religion is real. And it says, breaking, New Orleans area assistant district attorney died in apparent suicide by self-inflicted gunshot. So I guess he's working for the Hillary Clinton mafia, right? In his office per authorities. And I'm like, why would you say this? You're literally in the same area and you're saying, oh, it wasn't me. It was Stolas, the bird. The bird was the one who made him do it. The bird.
Like I said, I've had experiences I don't talk about because I know how they sound.
Oh, you can
and
tell
that's
me.
The thing. People who have had those experiences, who have had brushes with the supernatural, I don't believe they run their fucking mouth about them.
No, they don't. They don't. They have. There's like this Tumblrette. It's like supernatural according to Tumblrettes, as opposed to people who actually like have an encounter with
people
Bigfoot.
Who have a level head on their shoulders, even if they encounter crazy shit. If they know it's,
they have they have the tactfulness to say, okay,
I can't
I know
remember
it
what
sounds
movie
crazy.
it was. I remember this one movie where these people are being chased by this vampire is trying to kill them, right?
Right.
It wasn't even like a vampire. It was like an energy vampire. Not like a Dracula vampire, but whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they finally get to the cops, and they have the good sense to say, this person is trying to kill us. They don't front load all the supernatural shit because they want the cops to take them seriously. And they know how it sounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. Like, they know how, like, Sticks, you're just on the internet running your mouth about Magic Missile because it makes you sound cool on the internet.
Well,
if I actually did that, if I actually could magically make someone fucking kill themselves if they were fucking with me, there would just be a bunch of people that killed themselves and me completely mum on it.
Yeah, and you know, nobody would be the wiser, right? I mean,
it would just be like, oh my gosh, the cop that gave me a ticket blew his brains out before he could finish the ticket. I don't know what happened. Officers, I don't know. He pulled me over and then he just blew his fucking brains out. And I don't know. You can clearly see from the cams, I got nowhere near him.
Yeah.
Oh, he must have been under a lot of stress. You're free to go, sir. Like, that's how my magic powers would work if I was just making people kill themselves and fucked with me. And look, I'm not the best guy in the fucking world. I probably couldn't be trusted with those powers. But I certainly wouldn't brag about them like a moron until eventually the government dissects me.
Well, you know, we gotta do an autopsy on the bird as well, because you know about the bird, right? You know about how he like.
Well, the bird is the word. That's what I heard.
No, the bird apparently he's like in a contract with the bird from Hell of a Boss, so like the bisexual, the bisexual bird from Hell of a Boss, who for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe monkey see, monkey do. He's the bird.
That's a cartoon.
Yeah.
Is the character based on something from mythology Sticks is pulling on?
Yes.
Or is he so far gone that he thinks a cartoon character? Well, I'm legitimately asking if he thinks Pinkie Pie is gonna help him.
not this nightmare, no.
I got that. Which one's the unicorn? I bet she used her magic powers to help.
Twilight Sparkle.
Twilight Sparkle saved me, everybody, with the power of friendship.
Oh, friendship is magic. Stupid. No, but like apparently, like the bird from Hell of a Boss, who I swear has a posh British. I can't even say a posh British accent because I piss off people who actually know what that means. No, he has like a British accent. He's like upper, like he uses words like tart and shit like that, you know. So he's one of those types. He's like an aristocrat, and like his daughter's name's Octavia, which I swear to you, it's so weird that he has a daughter that he's like being like disloyal to. I'm not saying she's fucking his daughter, but
so Sticks put out a hit on this guy and hired a bisexual cartoon bird, a British bisexual cartoon bird to go kill this guy. If I'm getting this correct, so I think the only way to combat Sticks' magic is you need that green dip from Roger Rabbit, because that's the only thing that'll kill cartoons.
I know, my God.
You gotta get the dip. Like, remember when he killed that shoe? That was brutal, man. That shoe didn't do nothing to nobody.
Oh,
it's a kid's movie.
And you know what's? Oh man, that's. Oh God, you know we might actually have to use the dip on the bird.
Gonna have to use the dip. You have to spray the dip to keep the cartoon demon away. That. You ever see a movie called Evil Tunes?
It sounds familiar, yeah.
Okay, so this was one that was on like sketchy cable back in the 90s a lot. I don't know if it ever even was theatrical. It was probably right to video. But it was like these sorority girls in like a house, and they summon this demon out of a magical book, and it's a little cartoon. It's literally like a little cartoon demon, and it goes like up the one girl's ass and possesses her, and then she starts like doing hot lesbian sex to the other girls and killing them one by one. It was really just pure exploitation stuff, but I'm not going to act like my 13, 14-year-old self when I discovered it didn't furiously beat off to it.
Fucking David Carradine.
That was on like late night cable. That was back when you could find the good shit on late night cable, like Full Frontal.
Oh, jeez, it is 18 plus. My goodness.
Yeah, Evil Tunes is it's not a good movie, but it's definitely a movie. I don't know how else to describe it.
There was a lot of like TV shows in the 90s that I got to see. I haven't really seen ever since that are like on Stars and whatnot. Back when we actually had like pay-per-view. And oh, what the hell? They have the Necronomicon. What the fuck?
Oh, I forgot David Carradine was in this. You're right.
And the Necronomicon.
Like she summons a cartoon demon from the Necronomicon and it like goes up her pussy and possesses or something. It basically rapes her and it possesses her by just disappearing into her.
Well, it could have been
as
worse.
It's fucking her.
It could have been worse. It could have been a tree, right?
Ah, yes, the old tree rape scene.
Oh my god! But
when I was doing my blog, it was right when the Evil Dead remake came out, and I was reviewing like every movie I saw, and I remember I gave the Evil Dead remake a solid 4 tree rape scenes out of 5.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know what's gonna happen to Styx. Like, he's been fairly confident. I may not get that interview from him because I mean, he was kind enough to try. Like, I was gonna tell him about the Walrus because apparently I don't know if you've seen what the Walrus has been doing lately.
I don't know what the Walrus is doing. No, I couldn't tell you.
Okay, so I'll give tell me if this is just like out of touch or if it's just.
Is that like Alice in Wonderland, like the Carpenter and the Walrus?
No, it's the Eurasian and the Walrus, the freaking crazy. The Dugan guy, remember? The fucking guy who, like, for whatever reason, I don't know why he thought this, but he thinks, like, the YMCA is, like, the new American anthem or whatever. He literally...
The gay song from the 70s?
The gay song... Again, I feel like these guys are, like, stuck in the 1950s or, like, 80s. Like, they think that that's normal. It's not. It's stupid. Let's see if I can find it here. Why does it keep deleting my bookmarks? God damn it. Okay, here we go. Here's one for you. I'll show this to you. Where is it? Walrus. There it is. Okay, this is archived, and you can read this. This is our greatest enemy. If Israel is our greatest ally, this is their greatest enemy. And, you know, honestly, all we have to do is not fuck up. If we don't fuck up, Mr. Beckloff, I think we could survive. There we go. So
unless Styx starts summoning cartoon demons, they're gonna climb up chicks' pussies.
Well, I mean, this guy.
That could get out of hand.
This guy is doing chaos magic.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. He's gonna summon the Evil Tunes, and they're gonna climb up Blair White's ass
and turn her into a real boy.
And then Alex Jones is gonna catch it next time he taps that, allegedly.
Wait, Jones allegedly fucked.
There's rumors. There's rumors.
Do tell.
There's rumors.
Tell.
There was just a bunch of meetups a couple of years ago, like maybe after 2020, but there was a couple of meetups where it was there was just
what was she like giving her the frickin' Nick Fuentes Catboy eyes?
Yeah, there was rumors. Larry, I will just say, seeing their interactions and the photos they took with one another and all, I have my suspicions. That's all I'm gonna say.
So this chaos magician Russian walrus fucker, YMCA dance and of Trump is viral now. It is the anthem of Christian youth movement, recently demonized as far right by woke globalists. Now it is the most popular New Year song and New Year dance. Everyone except us Russians want to become the 51 state of U.S. I'm like, no. The fact that he assumes YMCA is Young Men's Christian or was it Young Men's Christian?
I don't know where he's getting any of that. I haven't heard YMCA anywhere but the oldies station in the past 30 fucking years.
Well, again, you're dealing with a guy who legitimately does.
Is it like a TikTok trend? Did the TikTokers find out YMCA and they're lip syncing to it? Is that what happened?
Maybe,
that I'm unaware of?
Maybe. I mean, you're dealing with a tech illiterate fucking Soviet boomer, right? Who just happens to, I guess moonlight as a fucking, magician. But you know, between this, and I actually wanted to do some more research into chaos magic, because I actually have another clip, and it's from the most, like, I don't know if you've ever seen this. Here you go. You can watch this as well. Guess who's going to tell us about chaos magic?
The evil tune?
Not the evil, no, the evil troon. The evil troon. More, well, we're getting to that point, because it's not the troon, but it does.
Well, I think you have to narrow it down.
TJ the Amazing Atheist.
Banana Boy.
Mr. Banana Phone.
I thought everything's just atoms bouncing off each other. TJ, isn't that what you're going with?
No, I mean,
we just eat robots.
I mean, honestly, like,
or has TJ become the amazing occult dork?
You'll see. Here we go.
I've been gradually becoming more and more open about my belief in chaos magic. I'm going to mute my mic because I'm
a little bit behind on watching.
For the most part, people have been surprisingly accepting, though, as I expected, some have raised objections. Why you object to what I believe, no idea, but hey, it's your right. I think it's time to address the topic head on and dedicate an entire video to it, so let's dive into the fray.
He's into, like, chaos magic and, like, occult shit now. So, like, instead of just, you know, using atheism to justify his degenerate behavior, now he's basically become, like full-on left-hand path occultist nonsense. He's gone full sticks, essentially, where he uses the bird as an excuse for his degeneracy.
Since chaos magic is, by its very nature, practiced differently by each individual, I believe it's important to clarify exactly what I mean when I talk about it. While I touch on,
so, like, is TJ gonna put a magical banana up his ass now?
Aim to explore.
I think that may very well be. It's gonna be a lemon, I think, not a banana.
You people with your Jesus, that's so cringe. I'm gonna go summon an evil tune to climb up my butt.
Greater detail here. To truly understand chaos magic, we must first delve into the concept of chaos itself.
So gay.
Both in its mystical and scientific dimension.
Why is everyone stuck being 14 forever?
Ancient Greece,
like,
described the formless void.
No, none of y'all motherfuckers couldn't become an adult.
A primal, boundless.
Well, if they become adult, they have to pay taxes and they have to actually, you know, get a job.
Like, yeah, we all had our 10th grade Wicca phase, okay? Like, grow the fuck up.
Honestly, you know, here's the thing. Some of them did grow up and they became HR ladies, unfortunately.
What the fuck, man?
That was the foundation of the universe.
Well, I think I'm going to bounce because I got to get to sleep. I got some stuff I got to do in the morning. But thanks for having me on.
No, it's all good. I would love to have you on again, man. Maybe we'll do this again sometime. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. So now I have to slog through the depths of chaos, through the warp, essentially, because that's kind of where we're at right now. We're going through the warp.
Cosmology. There is some validity to this ancient Greek idea, by the way. Scientifically, it is justifiable to say that order does indeed emerge from chaos. For example, in physics, the second law of thermodynamics tells us that systems naturally move towards disorder or entropy. Yet out of this very disorder, complex structures can form. Stars coalesce from the chaotic swirl of gas and dust in space. Life evolves from the primordial soup of random chemical interactions. And even human thought patterns arise from the chaotic firings of neurons in the brain. Chaos, it seems, is not the opposite of order, but its progenitor. And in fact, I think they're sort of cyclically linked. But what does science mean when it talks about chaos?
Oh, God, he even has the freaking rings. He has the hot topic rings.
Scientific terms, chaos refers to systems that are highly sensitive to initial conditions, a concept popularized by chaos theory. These systems, though governed to some extent by deterministic rules, at least if you're looking at Newtonian physics, exhibit behavior that appears random and unpredictable due to its complexity and all the different variables and interactions going on. The classic example is the butterfly effect, where the flap of a butterfly's wings can theoretically set off a chain of events leading to a horrible tornado halfway across the world. So chaos, in this context, is not the absence of rules, but an overwhelming intricacy of cause and effect. It's a dance of interconnectedness so vast and nuanced that it defies human comprehension. This scientific understanding of chaos complements its mythical origins, illustrating that even in the most unpredictable and turbulent systems, there exists a hidden order waiting to be uncovered. Now, I want to make it clear that I am not saying that chaos magic is a science. If it were, it would conform to empirical validation, to repeatable experiments, and adherence to strict methodologies, qualities that are fundamentally at odds with the deeply personal and subjective nature of magic. Chaos magic is not about proving a hypothesis. It's about engaging with reality in a way that bends perception, alters meaning, and unlocks new possibilities. Science seeks to understand and explain the world. Chaos magic seeks to interact with it, shape it, and in some ways defy it. Where science is rooted in objectivity, chaos magic revels in subjectivity. It embraces...
Which is why you're no longer an atheist. I hate to be the guy to tell. Well, I mean, you are, but you're no longer part of the atheist collective, which is good. But this is not better. I mean, you're now in the land of gods and monsters, and here be dragons, TJ.
Symbols and rituals and belief systems as tools, not truths, with the understanding that reality itself may be far more malleable than it appears. The parallels between chaos magic and chaos theory lie in their shared acknowledgement of complexity and unpredictability, but their purposes diverge. Chaos magic is about tapping into the chaotic potential of the unknown and using it to manifest change, not through a series of equations, but through your own will and your own imagination, and through experimentation. So how do we arrive at the assertion that reality is perhaps more malleable than it appears? Well, we can arrive at it in a few ways. The first way we arrive at it is simply by arriving at it. It's basically a leap of faith, an irrational declaration. And that's the easiest way to get there, but if you're not comfortable with that, and I know that a lot of people aren't, but let's hold on to that thought for a second. Let's set that aside. We're going to pick that thread up in a minute. There are other ways to arrive at the idea, paths that are more grounded in observation and reason. One such path is through neuroscience, which reveals that much of what we perceive as reality is actually constructed by our brains.
Yeah, the map is not the territory, right? Like, the word is not the thing. You are not your job or how much money you have in your bank. You are human, whatever the fuck that means.
Our senses gather fragmented information from the world, and our brains piece it together into a coherent picture. This picture is not, the world itself, it's an interpretation of the world, but it's the world that you live in.
It's the reality tunnel. Thank you, Robert Anton Wilson.
Consider optical illusions, or the way memory works. Both demonstrate that the mind does not always present us with an objective reality. Instead, it filters, reshapes, and sometimes outright fabricates experiences. If our perception of reality is already so malleable at a neurological level, why should we not entertain the idea that it can be intentionally influenced through will, belief, and ritual? Now, this is not just speculative. It's a recognition that our minds are the primary interface through which we engage with the world. If we can alter that interface, even slightly, we can alter the reality that it presents us with. Anyone who's ever done any sort of mind-altering drugs already knows the inherent truth of that statement. But I see the shortcoming. I'm not blind to it. Is altering perception the same as altering external reality? Probably not, but you don't live in external reality, do you? You live in a model of reality that is interpolated by your brain. Your entire experience of existence is mediated through the model your brain constructs, and that model is not some exact replica of external reality. It's a highly subjective interpretation tailored to your survival and experiences.
Yeah, the map is not the territory. We've already know this. I mean, again, and I will say this, I as much as I want to bash Banana Boy here, he at least is not in the same place that he was 10 years ago, right? If he was doing the same atheist woke shit, he'd probably be like, was it Steve Shives, I believe? I don't know if it was Steve Shives or who it was, but the guy who was basically just giving up everything to the feminists. Amon-Ra was in the same camp. I think he's probably been learning from Amon-Ra also, because he's also a lefty, a spiritual leftist as well.
So while altering perception may not change external reality in a physical sense, it absolutely changes your reality, the one that you live in, the one that you navigate, the one that you make your decisions within. Let's arrive at the assertion a different way, though, this time using the so-called physical sciences. At the quantum level, reality behaves in ways that defy human common sense. Particles exist in states of probability rather than certainty, and their behavior appears to be influenced by observation itself, a phenomenon famously illustrated by the double-slit experiment. The act of
Well, what are your thoughts on Sabine Hassenfelder? She actually had a really good take about this. Like, why don't we watch someone watching somebody watch the Slate experiment, and then use that as an example of whether or not they're waves or particles or wavicles or whatever the hell they want to be.
Observing or measuring a particle collapses its wave function, forcing it into a defined state. In other words, the mere presence of an observer changes the outcome.
You're not going to believe this, but we can change the pattern on the far wall simply by not watching which slit the photons pass through. I know it sounds crazy, but in every trial ever conducted, the outcome depends on whether or not the experiment was observed.
This challenges traditional notions of an objective, unchanging external reality. If, at the most fundamental level, the universe is shaped in part by observation and interaction, then perhaps reality is not as fixed as we once believed. Even in classical physics, Newtonian physics, we find evidence of malleability. For instance,
well, reality is what you make of it. If you can't, in the end of the reality perception, there's choice. If you can't, what was it that Robert Anton Wilson say? If you can't perceive it, it ain't real.
Einstein's theory of relativity, relative right in the word, right? Shows that time and space are not constants. They bend and stretch depending on the presence of mass and gravity and motion, and the very fabric of reality is, in a sense, pliable. It's shaped and influenced by the context in which it exists. But let's not lose the plot here. I don't want to be just woo-woo, throwing the word quantum on things to justify some irrational shit. These are all ultimately just post hoc rationalizations for a conclusion that was arrived at via a leap of faith. Chaos magic cannot be scientifically proven because it is inherently irrational. But this is where we pick up on another thread, one that we left behind earlier. Remember that thread we were plucking at and then we decided to move on from it? Because
not really.
Science itself also has to make some leaps of faith. It has no choice but to do so.
progress, ladies and gentlemen. He's slowly gotten out of that atheist, collectivist mindset. And again, it's not atheists I have a problem with. It's the collective of atheism that I have an issue. This is actually, I'll be praying for you, TJ, because this is actual fucking progress.
The biggest leap of faith that science takes, for example, is one of the most fundamental assumptions of all of science, which is that reality exists. What evidence do we truly have that reality exists? And we have our senses, the very senses that we recognize are fallible and easily deceived, as countless optical illusions and numerous documented cognitive biases reveal. The tools we use to measure reality, those tools are designed by us, based on our limited understanding of the universe. And philosophers have long wrestled with this question. I mean, René Descartes famously reduced existence to a singular certainty via cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. Beyond that, everything we experience could theoretically just be an illusion or a simulation or a dream.
You don't believe that. You don't believe that for any... Because if it was a dream, just jump off a cliff and wake up. Right? The truth be told is that reality is what we can make. If you can't make it, it ain't real.
Yet science, by necessity, assumes that an external reality exists and that it operates according to consistent laws and that our observations can reliably uncover those laws. Those assumptions are leaps of faith, foundational axioms that cannot be proven but must be accepted in order to proceed. And really, even if you want to get really deconstructive, Descartes' famous cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am, can also be thrown into doubt. The statement presumes a singular I doing the thinking, but modern neuroscience challenges that very notion.
Yeah, but here's the question. Why would you want to challenge it, right? I mean, do leaves exist? Show me leaves. Oh, wait, you only showed me a leaf. It's a word game. So then the real question then becomes, and this is what I have to ask, TJ, is who is the great magician that makes the grass green?
Neuroscience suggests that the self is not a cohesive, stable entity, but rather a construct. A narrative stitched together by various regions of the brain working in concert. There is no singular I that is pulling the strings. Instead, what we call I is an emergent phenomenon, a product of countless processes occurring simultaneously in the mind and in the body. From the firing of neurons to the interplay of memories and emotions and sensory inputs, the self appears to be less an independent operator and more of a collage of momentary experiences held together by narrative perception. This means that even the act of thinking, which Descartes relied upon as proof of existence, becomes kind of nebulous. Who or what is doing the thinking? Is it a unified I, the concept of self, or is it simply the brain firing off thoughts and then assigning the ownership to them after the fact? If the self is an illusion, then cogito ergo sum might be little more than a comforting story that we're just telling ourselves to make sense of our existence. Anyway, I don't want to wander too far off course here. Let's refocus. What is chaos magic? Fundamentally, it is an irrational and subjective idea that embraces the fluidity of belief and the malleability of perception. At its core, chaos magic is the practice of intentionally shaping reality, not necessarily the external physical reality, but at the very least the subjective reality that we actually inhabit. And we do that through will and through belief and through ritual. It operates on the principle that belief itself is a tool, not a truth. Chaos magic doesn't demand allegiance to any specific doctrine or to any specific deity. Instead, it encourages practitioners to adopt and discard beliefs as needed.
So basically, it's atheism minus atheism. And I say atheism in the collectivist sense. It's a marketing gimmick. Oh, we're so rational. What are you rational about? Can you elaborate on what is the difference between rational and irrational without, biases, right? Can you show your work?
Using them as instruments to achieve desired outcomes. And in this way, it's less about what's true and more about what works. Unlike traditional forms of magic, which often rely on rigid systems or established traditions, chaos magic is fluid and experimental and deeply personal. It allows for the blending of symbols and ideas and practices from a variety of sources: mythology, science, pop culture, or even just shit you made up. The goal is not to discover some ultimate truth behind the veil of reality. It's to explore the possibilities of perception and interaction.
It's to make a buck. That's what it is. Literally in some cases. Like, these people will legitimately tell you that it's magical for you to take a dollar bill from your wallet and then put it into the machine and then press a few symbols on the machine and then you get chocolate. And of course, I said this to my friend Luke, and he says, oh, believing in God is still a step too far. No, like, legitimately, Luke, I think this is actually a progress. He's going through the dark night of the human soul. He still doesn't know who's the master that makes the grass green, because once he realizes that, he'll realize how dangerous it is, because there are other masters that also make the grass green. Now, the real question here is, does green exist?
In essence, chaos magic acknowledges that if the self and if reality are constructs, then they can be reconstructed. It invites practitioners to become the architects of their own experience, wielding belief as both a tool and a weapon.
That's false consciousness, my friend. Being shot and buried is what they should have wanted.
To reshape the narrative of their own lives. And this is where the real power of chaos magic lies, not in proving its validity, but in its ability to make change happen through the sheer force of intention. The most powerful chaos magician of our time is a guy who probably has never even heard the term chaos magic. His name is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now think about it. Here's a guy who started as a young bodybuilder in a small Austrian village, and he had a nearly impossible dream. He wanted to become the world's greatest bodybuilder, and then a Hollywood superstar, and then eventually a political leader. And by all accounts, I mean, the odds are obviously stacked against the odds of accomplishing one of those things. Astronomically low. Especially when you're a guy from Austria who doesn't speak English, who does not look like what a traditional actor at that time looked like. You come from a modest, impoverished, really, background. So how did he actually end up accomplishing all of those things? Well, he's happy to tell you, and if you listen to him speak about it, he tells you the most powerful tool in his arsenal was belief.
Everything I ever did, the thing that I heard out of people's mouth was, that's impossible. That can't be done. Or no. Imagine, you go from studio executive to studio executive, from agent to agent, from manager to manager, and they all said exactly the same thing. But you know something? I didn't give a shit. Because I believed that I can be a leading man. I believed that I could be another Clint Eastwood, or another Burt Reynolds, or another Warren Beatty, whatever those characters were, Charles Bronson, and so on. I believed that I could be those people.
He would spend hours simply envisioning himself accomplishing these things, convincing himself of their inevitability. Visualization is a huge part of chaos magic, for the same reason it's a huge part of Arnold Schwarzenegger's routine when he was trying to achieve his unlikely dreams. Visualization fortifies the will. And nothing is more important in magic than will. And why is that? Because will is the force that bridges the gap between belief and action, between intention and manifestation. Without will, belief is just idle. Doesn't mean a thing. Rituals are empty gestures. Will is what transforms the abstract into the tangible.
Yeah, I mean, no one's going to wage jihad except the people who are willing to wage jihad. Again, this is one of the, I actually am kind of happy that he's doing this. Real talk, chat. I legitimately think that TJ is having some progress in this, that he's gotten into the mystical. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. He might very well give his life to Christ on his deathbed, but he's going through every single place, as every person who's a skeptic should. And it just so happens he's in Chaos Land. He's in the warp.
Imagine into the real. Arnold Schwarzenegger's use of visualization was not just some passive exercise in daydreaming. It was an act of sheer willpower. By envisioning his success as not just possible, but inevitable, he aligned his actions and decisions with that vision. He didn't merely hope for his dreams to come true, he willed them into existence through relentless focus and unwavering belief.
What are your thoughts on Grant Morrison? That's what I want to know.
This mirrors one of the key principles of chaos magic. The practitioner must commit fully to their chosen belief or ritual, treating it as though it were absolutely real, even if only for one moment. This temporary suspension of doubt empowers the will, allowing it to override the inertia of skepticism or hesitation. Arnold's visualization practices demonstrate this principle in action. An unshakable belief paired with decisive effort can alter the trajectory of life. Just as a chaos magician's rituals aim to alter the subjective reality that they experience.
It's not. First off, let me just say this: there's your board, and actually, we're going to talk about this. This is actually very fun stuff to talk about. So, it's very much like there's the client side, and then there's the supply side. There's the world, and then there's the inner world. There's the world that you perceive, right? And then there's the world that actually is. And the world that actually is exists outside of you. When you die, it will still be. Even if you no longer can perceive it, it's still there. So he's very close to solipsism, which is not very good. But, this chaos magic shit, this is where we start thinking that the bird from Helluva actually exists, and he actually is going to, protect us and defend us, and, maybe, even, I don't know, let him fuck his wife. I don't fucking know. I don't believe that, by the way, but I know that there are enough people out there who do believe that, let's say, Muhammad flew to the moon and got the Quran or whatever the hell.
And in both cases, the key is that the will does not ask permission. It simply asserts itself. It does not wait for validation from external reality. It shapes reality to align with its intent. And that is why will is the cornerstone of both Arnold Schwarzenegger's success and the transformative power of chaos magic.
Why not have it just regular magic? I mean, you need, there's actual, legitimate magic practices where these cunts will, legitimately talk for hours on end. We're talking, sipping weak tea and wearing broccoli necklaces just so they can become perfect.
Now, I've heard some say in my comments that my chaos magic is some kind of gimmick, or that it's a rejection of reason, or that it's a midlife crisis. I think that some of these criticisms can be cleared up just by telling you about my decade-long journey to arriving at where I am now. So, despite my perfectly good understanding that the odds are always in favor of the house, I've always enjoyed gambling. My favorite game is roulette. I only play it a few times a year, but I always relish the game. And like most people who love the little spinning wheel, I occasionally get little pinpricks of intuition about certain numbers. Right?
Yeah, it's the Monte Carlo wheel, right? It's the devil when you do it.
And, as you would expect, they're usually wrong. Occasionally they're right, but it's all just odds and guessing. Of course, basic probability. But because I always hedge my bets, I usually end up winning more money than I lose. Although, like all gamblers, my luck runs hot at times and cold at others. And that's also just basic probability stuff. That's to be expected. There's nothing remarkable about any of that. Most people with patience can grind some money out of a roulette wheel if they're really willing to sit there and play very conservatively and they resist the urge to look for, like, the big win, right? Anyway, about a decade ago, give or take a few years, I was in Las Vegas, and I was playing roulette. And all of a sudden, with seemingly no catalyst, a very strange feeling came over me. It was as if my whole body began to just subtly vibrate. I was filled with this huge surge of endorphins. I felt this very happy sort of mania wash over me.
Oh.
And it was unlike anything I've ever experienced before, but the closest thing I can really liken it to is not necessarily an orgasm, but like the moment that an orgasm is approaching, right? Like when you're about to have an orgasm. And accompanying that feeling was a certainty, an absolute conviction that the next number was going to be 33. And I didn't question the feeling in the
33? Wow. Okay.
Because it just felt so good. I placed a large wager on that number, and I won. I won big. And that feeling continued for another spin, and I won again. And I believe that second number was 27, but I could be mistaken. And after those two wins, the feeling dissipated, and my luck returned to its normal course. Now, as a fairly staunch skeptic at that time, I was a bit bothered by this event. How had my strange feeling of absolute certainty been correct twice in a row? Now, the odds of guessing the right number in roulette are 1 in 38. Not too crazy. But the odds of guessing the right number twice in a row are astronomically smaller, about 1 in 1,444, or about 0.069%. Still, on a planet with billions of people...
But who's counting, TJ, right? No, like, legitimately, who's counting? Because you approaching that roulette wheel, and that roulette wheel having the same, pattern, I don't want to say the same patterns, but like the fact, you don't know how many times it was flipped prior. You don't know if it was on black, or if it was on red, or if it was on green, or whatever the hell it was, right? So again, this is, what I would say is it's magical thinking, but it feels like it's meaningful to you.
That are unlikely happen all the time. But I just couldn't shake the feeling that I had not been guessing, that I had somehow known what the next numbers were. But years went by, and I largely forgot about the event. I put it out of my mind. But then it happened again. It was a different casino, a different roulette wheel, but the pleasure and certainty once again washed over me. And I placed a large wager, and once again I won. Then a few months later, it happened for the third and final time. And this started to perplex me, because I did not know how to explain it. Every single time I felt this sense of pre-orgasmic certainty, the feeling was correct. And that did not fit into my conception of the world. It was the sort of woo-woo garbage that I laughed at when others talked about it. Just I'm sure many of you guys are rolling, oh my god, give me a fucking break. I get it. I continue to chalk this up to just some kind of coincidence, or perhaps I was just engaging in a little post-hoc revisionism, right? Interpreting events more fantastically than they actually were. And, we've talked earlier about the flawed lens of memory, so, I know from a cursory reading of any cognitive neuroscience that memory is horribly flawed, and that human beings are easily deceived, especially by themselves. But I think the fact that I couldn't really explain what I experienced had kind of squeaked open the doors of perception a little bit, just a slip. My skepticism, I think, became a degree or two less staunch than it had been, even if I failed to intellectually recognize it at the time. And around that time, I got into the band Ghost, and I really...
I wouldn't say I've gotten into them. Their music's okay. I mean, I don't like the fact that they're really harping on the Catholic thing. I think they should go after Orthodox. I mean, the Orthobros literally are trying to take over the fucking world. Okay.
In love with the song "He Is." It made me feel a sort of spirituality that I never really experienced listening to any sort of religious music. My affinity for the song had a strange side effect, though. It made me hyper-conscious every time the clock read 3:33. And there's no mention of that in the song. I don't really know what the connection is, but I'm certain it's there, because it was right at that same time, and I just, intuitively felt the connection. Maybe it's because they're a satanic band, 333 is half of 666, something like that. It was as if my brain was suddenly...
Or it could just be Masonic, right?
Kind of hardwired to look at the clock at that time, every day. I became hyper-aware of 333 in other places as well. Addresses, license plates, whatever you could find.
He saw the Fnords! He saw the Fnords! Holy shit, he saw the Fnords, mate!
Numbers. I became intrigued with the concept of 333. And later a similar thing happened with the number 22. But these number fixations kind of led me to the dice. I began compulsively rolling dice. I would ask the dice questions. And, about myself, and about the future, about events around me, and then I would roll them and I would interpret them, based on how many threes are there, what numbers, what do they all add up to, that kind of stuff. More than reading the dice, I began to personify them, sensing some sort of being conversing with me through them. I could sense its personality, I could sense its general demeanor. It was an impatient trickster. It was neither good nor evil, but practical in its applications of morality. It had a sense of humor, a snarkness, but also a sort of wisdom. And all of these attributes I saw just looking at these dice, and I knew I was indulging a very irrational side of myself, but there I was, reading dice like some kind of mystic reads tea leaves, right?
Not even tea leaves. It's more like a mystic reading the bones.
And a couple of years ago, I saw a meme on Instagram. And I don't remember what the meme was, but it must have amused me because I followed the account that posted it. And this account turned out to be an account that was like devoted to posting memes about something called chaos magic. And the longer I followed the account, the more I noticed that the memes that it posted resonated with me far more than most memes do. And so I began to get curious, just what the hell is chaos magic? So I looked it up. And I found that chaos magic is a modern-day system of occult practices that emphasizes the fluid, personal nature of belief. Unlike other traditions, it does not adhere to any fixed dogma or external structure. Instead, it posits that belief itself is just a tool.
But that itself is a dogma. Paradoxically, it's like being tolerant for the intolerant.
That can be shaped, discarded, and replaced as needed. The magic of chaos comes not from the powers of supernatural beings, but from the manipulation of one's own beliefs and will. It acknowledges that the symbols, rituals, and deities that we interact with are all constructs of our minds, malleable and adaptable to our own unique understanding. Chaos magicians believe that by shifting perspectives and embracing the notion that reality itself is subjective, they can alter the very fabric of their personal experiences. In this framework, gods and symbols are not universal forces, they are instead internal reflections, open to interpretation, and they can be imbued with whatever significance the practitioner chooses. It's a practice of self-empowerment, an acknowledgement that in this world of infinite chaos, we can create meaning through sheer willpower.
Well, you can make meaning out of nothing. I mean, I could look at a wall, and I could, like, connect the dots of what, let's say, certain smudges on the wall, and then I make a face, right? Pareidolia is a very powerful tool within chaos magic. You know, if you perceive, let's say, a staff, like Jafar's staff from like Aladdin or some shit, to be super powerful and really effective, and to the point where you actually are willing to go out of your way and shell out money for like a vintage Jafar fucking, you know, snake staff, right? Cobra staff. That can influence you. It does. But again, let's call this what this is, flights of fancy and fanciful associations.
This time I started using tarot cards more seriously. Now, I had always played with them, but I saw them as a tool for introspection, not as a means of accessing any sort of like magical insight.
Well, it is magical insight. The difference here is that you're not going to call it magical insight, but it basically is magical thinking.
Interesting thing happened when I started thinking of the cards in different terms. When I started taking them more seriously and respecting their power. The accuracy
of their power.
Readings went up astronomically. Now, being a skeptic, and yes, I do still consider myself a skeptic despite all the fucking nonsense I've been talking, I know all of the counter-arguments that...
Well, first off, why do you care about so much what people think of you? Like, I'm looking at your channel, mate, and a lot of it is bashing moralists. I'm like, why the fuck do you care about moralists? They have an opinion, you have an opinion, and some of their opinion makes their life better, and their ways of living makes their life better. Why don't you try it? Because I'll tell you this, again, I'm really happy for this guy. Unironically, he's not in a good place, but he's in a better place than he was, you know?
They're going to make. They'll say that tarot preys on confirmation bias, because any cards that don't fit are probably downgraded, downplayed, ignored, while those that do fit are held up as examples of accuracy. And they'll say that tarot cards themselves are highly interpretable, so anyone can easily make any interpretation fit any situation, no matter what card comes up. And they'll say that tarot cards create self-fulfilling prophecies, because if you believe the cards are accurate, you're going to engage in subconscious behaviors that will lead to the outcome that the cards condition you to expect. And they'll say that tarot cards prey on human beings' tendency towards pattern recognition.
The same could be said with all religions, including atheism, that you've been conditioned to be a skeptic, to see that skepticism is a good thing inherently. It's not. It's a thing. And whether it's good or bad, it just is. Why would you be skeptical that the sun isn't real? Why would you be skeptical of the Earth not being round? You know, there's a reason behind your skepticism. And I think he's realizing that why does he believe the things he believes? Like, he actually has to take inventory and say, okay, I'm an atheist, why? Or I was an atheist, why? I'm a chaos magician, why? If you're just seeking power, go buy yourself a gun or go get a lawyer. That's more power for if you ever actually wanted it. Because you could actually influence the world with those guns. You could stick up a girl, get her to give you give you the pussy. Or you could get the lawyer to basically give you the money. But you're going to have to pay the toll. Just saying. There's blood-sucking lawyers. We're not going to watch the whole thing. I am going to end it here. But I did find it very interesting, the chaos magic. It's popping up again, at least in the zeitgeist of the collective conscious so far. Anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, be good to one another. Take care of one another. We're going to watch this later on a different day. We might have to do a whole chaos episode, so to speak, coming up here. But remember, saving the West is a side quest. This is the Digital Renegade podcast.